Chapter 1000. Lu Ming smiled faintly and said, "Floating Sky Mountain is an overlord power. To think that their disciples would be so unbearable to actually snatch a girl. How disappointing." Lu Ming shook his head and sighed. Ling Kai's face turned sinister as he shouted, "Brat, you dare to look down on my floating sky mountain. Now you have no chance to live. You will definitely die." "What do you mean look down on you? This is the truth. If floating sky mountain is like you or trash like Ling Yunkong, I think it won't be long before it perishes." Lu Ming smiled faintly and said loudly. The hearts of the surrounding people twitched as they took in a cold breath. This Lu Ming was too daring. He actually dared to talk about Ling Yunkong and floating sky mountain like this, even though they thought the same in their hearts. They didn't dare to say a word. Boasting shamelessly, "Who do you think you are to talk about young Master Yunkong and floating sky mountain? Kill him for me." Ling Kai said coldly and waved his hand. Behind him, 5 youths rushed out at the same time, and 5 long swords covered Lu Ming. These 5 youths were the same as the previous one. They looked to be in their early 30s and couldn't be considered as geniuses. However, their battle power wasn't weak either. They were all experts at the first level of spirit embryo realm. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. Central Continent was indeed the center of divine wasteland continent. It was a holy land for cultivation, and there were so many experts. There weren't many people in Eastern Wasteland who had reached spirit embryo realm in their 30s, but here they were continuously meeting. Scram! Lu Ming spat out a word, and a long spear appeared in his hand. With a tremble, 5 spear lights appeared and pierced towards the 5 youths. Puff! 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 Fresh blood splattered everywhere as the 5 youths screamed and retreated in a hurry. A bloody hole appeared on each of their shoulders, and fresh blood flowed out. The faces of the 5 youths were pale, and their eyes were filled with fear. If Lu Ming's spear lights had pierced their throats, they would have been dead. "Now, scram!" Lu Ming shouted coldly and stared at Ling Kai with a gaze like lightning. "Brat, you are courting death." Not only did Ling Kai not retreat, his killing intent became even more intense. Whoa! Above Ling Kai's head, a big fish appeared. This fish was incomparably ferocious, like a battle sword. Its body was slender, and its eyes revealed a fierce light. Ancient swordfish was Ling Kai's bloodline. There were 3 golden chakras shining on it. Ling Kai was an expert who had awakened a level 3 divine bloodline. He was a genius among geniuses. Even though Lu Ming's battle strength was not weak, he was still fearless. With his battle prowess, it was enough to deal with strong practitioners at the 4th level of spirit embryo realm. Clang! There was an explosion of sword gleams. Dazzling sword gleams were released from Ling Kai's hands. Countless sword auras were released toward Lu Ming. With a flick of his spear, space buzzed as boundless spear light appeared. Clang! 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 The rapid sound of metal colliding rang out. It was extremely dense, and it rang out several hundred times. Then, Ling Kai's figure retreated rapidly. Several holes had appeared on his body, and blood was flowing out. His face was pale and gloomy. It was obvious that Lu Ming had shown mercy. However, not only was Ling Kai not grateful, he was even more resentful. In his heart, Lu Ming did not dare to kill him because he was from the Floating Mountain sect. It was natural that Lu Ming would not kill him. However, Lu Ming had injured him and embarrassed him. He would not be able to answer to Ling Yunkong when he returned. This was a huge sin. "Brat, just you wait. Just you wait." Ling Kai roared angrily and led the others away, turning into a few sword lights and disappearing into the sky. Lu Ming did not give chase. If he was alone, he would have just killed these trash. Lu Ming would not have frowned at all. However, he had to take the Xiao clan into consideration, so he showed mercy. Ah Hui, Ah Lei, and Xiao Zhan were stunned. They did not expect Lu Ming's battle prowess to be so high that even Ling Kai was not Lu Ming's opponent and was easily defeated by Lu Ming. Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning were also dumbfounded. At the same time, their expressions were extremely ugly. "Brat, how dare you injure a heaven's pride of the Floating Mountain sect? It doesn't matter if you want to die, but don't drag our Xiao clan into it." At this moment, Xiao Ning strode out with a gloomy face, pointing at Lu Ming and cursing. Lu Ming frowned, and a trace of killing intent flashed in the depths of his eyes. "Shut up! Little brother Lu was trying to save us." Xiao Zhan reprimanded. "Grandfather, you're old and muddle-headed. What save us? You're clearly harming us. Letting Ling Kai take Ah Hui and Ah Lei Wei was the best choice. That way, our Xiao clan would have a meteoric rise. Now it's all ruined by this brat. Our Xiao clan will be in trouble." Xiao Ning shouted with a sinister expression. "Bastard!" Xiao Zhan glared at Xiao Ning, trembling with anger. "Ning is right. Brat, I knew you had bad intentions. Now that you've offended young Master Ling Yukong, we're all in trouble." Xiao Hongyan took a step forward and said coldly, "Ha ha ha! Framing your Xiao clan and bringing trouble to your Xiao clan? Ridiculous, really ridiculous. Who was the one who killed the Xiao clan's disciples?" "Me." Lu Ming laughed. Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning were really shameless. Just now, when the Floating Mountain sect's disciples killed the Xiao clan's disciples, Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning didn't say a word. Now that Lu Ming helped the Xiao clan beat back Ling Kai and the others, the two jumped out to criticize him. How could there be such a ridiculous thing in the world? So what if a few Xiao clan's trash died? Who told them to be disobedient? Xiao Ning sneered. Slap. Lu Ming slapped Xiao Ning's face with a backhand. Xiao Ning spun a few rounds in the air and fell heavily on the ground. One side of his face was swollen like a pig's head. He looked at Lu Ming with a dumbfounded expression. Lu Ming actually dared to hit him? In my eyes, you're also trash. Why don't you go and die? Lu Ming looked down at Xiao Ning and said coldly, "How dare you? I'll take you down right now and cripple your cultivation. I'll personally send you to apologize to young Master Ling Yukong." Xiao Hongyun shouted as the aura on his body exploded. He took a step forward and rushed towards Lu Ming, sending a palm towards Lu Ming. 5th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Xiao Hongyun's cultivation had reached the 5th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. With his cultivation, he could have stopped Ling Kai, but he didn't move at all. Now, he wanted to take down Lu Ming. "Stop!" Xiao Zhan shouted in anger. He didn't expect Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning to be so shameless. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. However, his cultivation hadn't fully recovered, so it was too late for him to stop Xiao Hongyun. Facing Xiao Hongyun's palm, Lu Ming didn't move at all, as if he had no intention of retaliating. Xiao Hongyun's heart jumped as he had a bad premonition. This brat is so young, and I've never heard of his name. I don't believe that he's my opponent. Thinking of this, Xiao Hongyun's palm strength increased as it flew towards Lu Ming. Just as the palm strength was about to hit Lu Ming's feet moved slightly and Xiao Hongyun's palm was dodged by Lu Ming. At the same time, Lu Ming stretched out his hand and grabbed Xiao Hongyun's face, pressing it against the ground. Boom! The ground shook as Xiao Hongyun's face came into close contact with the ground, creating a huge crater. Smoke and dust filled the air. Chapter 1001. When the dust settled, Xiao Hongyun was lying on the ground like a dead dog. His face was completely deformed and blood was seeping out from his mouth. His body was twitching, and it was a tragic sight. The surrounding onlookers were tongue-tied and couldn't say anything for a long time. Xiao Hongyun, who was at the 5th level of Spirit Embryo Realm, couldn't resist Lu Ming at all. Lu Ming's strength became unfathomable in the hearts of the onlookers. What's the use of keeping a person like you in this world? I'll send you on your way. A cold killing intent burst out from Lu Ming's eyes. Xiao Hongyan felt Lu Ming's killing intent and shuddered. He became much more clear-headed and broke out in cold sweat. He crawled toward Xiao Zhan with all his might and shouted, "Father, father, save me! Save me, I won't dare to do it again. I was wrong this time, save me." Xiao Zhan's gaze was complicated and he let out a sigh. He cupped his fists towards Lu Ming and said, "Little brother Lu, can you spare him this time?" Xiao Hongyan was his son after all, and also his last son. Seeing him being killed by Lu Ming, Xiao Zhan couldn't bear it. Lu Ming shook his head in his heart. He already knew this would happen. Xiao Zhan valued friendship too much. Although he was disappointed in Xiao Hongyan, he didn't want to see him die. "Since Senior Xiao has spoken, I'll spare him this time," Lu Ming said. In his eyes, it didn't matter if Xiao Hongyan was killed because he didn't care at all. Why would he care about someone who could be killed with a slap? "Big brother Lu, I didn't expect you to be so powerful." Ah Hui ran over and looked at Lu Ming with admiration. Ah Lei also stood behind Ah Hui and blinked her eyes, peeking at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's strength was far beyond their expectations. It seemed like even their grandfather wasn't a match for Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled and looked at Xiao Zhan. "Senior Xiao, what do you plan to do next?" It was obvious that Ling Yunkong wouldn't let this matter rest. "Little brother Lu, let's talk inside," Xiao Zhan said. Lu Ming nodded and walked into the Xiao clan's mansion with Xiao Zhan, Ah Hui, and Ah Lei. "Ling Yunkong shouldn't be here so soon. I plan to dismiss the Xiao family and take Ah Hui and Ah Lei to the ends of the world. But this time, I'm really sorry to have involved you." As he spoke, Xiao Zhan bowed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his hand, and a strand of Zhan Yuan spread out, dragging Xiao Zhan along. "Senior, there's no need to be so polite. I, Ah Hui, and Ah Lei can be considered friends. I can't just watch them be taken away by the people of the floating mountain. Moreover, I'm alone, so I'm not afraid of them." Xiao Zhan could feel Lu Ming's vast true essence. He found that he couldn't even bow down a little bit. He was secretly shocked in his heart. In his eyes, Lu Ming was even more unfathomable. This old man is truly unable to repay little brother's kindness. Xiao Zhan cupped his fists. Lu Ming had cured his poison before, and this time he had saved Ah Hui and Ah Hui. He was truly a great benefactor to them. After chatting for a while, Xiao Zhan ordered everyone in the Xiao family to pack their things. They planned to wait until night and take advantage of the darkness to leave in batches. Lishui City and the Xiao family definitely couldn't stay. Half a day passed and night fell. The disciples of the Xiao family fled into the night in batches and disappeared. Lu Ming, Xiao Zhan, Ah Hui, and Ah Lei sat in the courtyard, slowly drinking tea. "Master, let this old servant stay and take care of you." An old man with a head full of white hair stood beside Xiao Zhan and pleaded. The old man was very old, but he was still full of spirit. But now his eyes were filled with sadness and reluctance. "Grandpa Quan." Ah Hui and Ah Lei were also reluctant to part. The old man was called Feng Quan. He had been in the Xiao family for hundreds of years. Now he was the housekeeper of the Xiao family. He had watched Ah Hui and Ah Lei grow up and had deep feelings for the Xiao family. "Ah Quan, it's very dangerous to follow us. You still have a family. Hurry up and leave. If there's a chance, we'll meet again." Xiao Zhan said. He was helpless, but this was the only way now. If they stayed, they would all die when Ling Yunkong brought people here. Only by leaving would they have a chance of survival. Xiao Zhan's attitude was firm. Feng Quan was helpless. Then he said goodbye to Xiao Zhan and the others in tears. "Grandpa, it's all our fault." Ah Hui and Ah Lei were teary-eyed. If it weren't for them, this wouldn't have happened. "You two silly girls. Don't let your imagination run wild." Xiao Zhan chuckled, then looked at Lu Ming and said, "Little brother Lu, it's getting late. You should leave. We'll disguise ourselves and leave the city at dawn." Lu Ming had already helped them a lot. He didn't want to implicate Lu Ming, Before Lu Ming could say anything, footsteps were heard in the courtyard. The next moment, Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning appeared and walked in. "What are you still doing here? Hurry up and get lost." Xiao Zhan scolded coldly. Plop, plop. To everyone's surprise, Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning knelt down in front of Xiao Zhan. "Father, I was wrong. I was blinded by greed and thought of using A Hui and A Lei to curry favor with Ling Yunkong. That's why this happened. I was wrong." Xiao Hongyun kowtowed to Xiao Zhan and cried bitterly. He then kowtowed to Lu Ming and said, "Thanks to young Master Lu for waking me up this time. I suddenly realized that what I did previously was a huge mistake. Thank you, young Master Lu." Xiao Ning kowtowed along with Xiao Hongyun. Lu Ming frowned. Xiao Zhan also frowned. "Father, I only hope that you can forgive me. Then I'll bring Ning to Ling Yunkong and beg for mercy. I'll buy some time for you and A Hui to leave." Xiao Hongyun said with a sincere look. "Grandpa, look, second uncle also knows his mistake. Just forgive him." A Hui whispered, "Yes, Grandpa." A Lei also said. The two sisters were very kind. Seeing that Xiao Hongyun seemed to be sincere, they begged for mercy for Xiao Hongyun. Slap, slap. Suddenly, Xiao Hongyun slapped himself repeatedly. As he slapped himself, he cried out, "Father, I was wrong. I beg for your forgiveness." After a few slaps, both sides of Xiao Hongyun's face swelled up. "Well, it's good that you know you're wrong. Everyone makes mistakes. Just remember that you have to grasp your own opportunities and not sacrifice your loved ones." Xiao Zhan was soft-hearted. Seeing this, he sighed. "Thank you, Father." Xiao Hongyun smiled and said, "Father, I don't know when we'll meet again after this farewell. I've prepared a feast in the hall. It's been a long time since I've had a gathering with Father and my nieces. Let's just say goodbye to Father and my nieces." "A banquet? There's no need for that, as long as you have the heart," Xiao Zhan said. "Father, this is a small gift from me. Maybe we'll never meet again." Xiao Hongyun sighed and showed a regretful and sad look. "Grandpa, let's go. I think second uncle is sincere." A Hui whispered and A Lei nodded repeatedly. "Well, okay." Chapter 1002. Xiao Hongyun was overjoyed. "Thank you, Father." Then he looked at Lu Ming and said, "Young Master Lu, I apologize for offending you in the past. Why don't you join us?" That's good. There's no reason to refuse." Lu Ming smiled. Then the six of them came to the main hall. There was indeed a table full of delicious wine and delicacies. Xiao Hongyun poured everyone a cup of wine, then raised his cup and said, "Father A Hui, A Lei, and young Master Lu, I made a big mistake in the past. I'll punish myself with a cup." Then he raised his cup and drained it in one gulp. Xiao Zhan, A Hui, and A Lei also raised their cups and took a sip. Lu Ming raised his cup with a faint smile on his face. "Young Master Lu, please." Seeing that Lu Ming did not drink, a trace of panic flashed in the depths of Xiao Hongyun's eyes. Then a sincere smile appeared on his face. "It's really good wine. You'll know after smelling it." Lu Ming laughed, then raised his cup and drained it in one gulp. Seeing this, Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. "Young Master Lu is generous. Come, let's eat." Xiao Hongyun smiled. Everyone sat down, and Xiao Ning poured wine for them. "Young Master Lu, you're so young, but you have such a cultivation base. I'm really impressed. I've never heard of your name before. May I know which force you're from?" Xiao Hongyun said. Hearing this, Xiao Zhan, A Hui, and A Lei were also curious. It had been half a year since the Battle of Providence ended. During the Battle of Providence, all the hidden geniuses who were secretly nurtured by the unparalleled experts had revealed themselves. Now, who didn't know the names of these geniuses? However, they were unfamiliar with Lu Shaoqing. Did he not participate in the Battle of Providence? "I don't belong to any force. I used to cultivate in the mountains. This is my first time coming out." Lu Ming smiled. Everyone was stunned. Did Lu Ming really not participate in the Battle of Providence? This was truly rare. Generally speaking, when encountering a battle of karmic luck, there was practically no genius who wouldn't be tempted. Haha, young Master Lu, you have such a cultivation base even though you haven't participated in the Battle of Providence. This is truly rare. Come, let me offer you a toast. Xiao Hongyun raised his cup and drained it in one gulp. Lu Ming smiled and drained his cup as well. Good wine, really good wine. You guys are really considerate. Lu Ming clicked his tongue, a look of enjoyment on his face. Haha, it seems like young Master Lu is a wine lover. You should drink more if you like. Xiao Hongyun smiled. Xiao Ning immediately poured a cup of wine for Lu Ming. He raised his cup and said, Brother Lu, please forgive my previous offense. Sure. Lu Ming smiled, picked up the wine cup and drained it in one gulp. The joy on Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning's faces deepened. Afterwards, Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning repeatedly apologized to Xiao Zhan, Ahui, and Ale and proposed a toast to them. Soon, the Xiao sisters' faces were flushed red, and they looked exceptionally beautiful. Grandpa, Ahui, why do I feel a little cold? At this moment, Ale whispered, I feel a little cold too. Ahui shivered and exhaled. A layer of frost actually formed in the air. Xiao Zhan's expression changed drastically. Ahui and Ale were both in the complete spiritual sea realm. How could they suddenly feel cold? Even if they were in a world of ice and snow, they would not feel cold. At this moment, Xiao Zhan also felt a trace of coldness in his meridians. Bang! Xiao Zhan suddenly stood up from his chair and stared at Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning like a mad lion. He roared, Bastards, you poison the wine. Before he could finish his words, Xiao Zhan felt the world spinning around him. He could not stand and sat back down in his chair. Ahui and Lei looked at Xiao Hongyun in disbelief. They had never imagined that Xiao Hongyun would actually poison them. Didn't Xiao Hongyun admit his mistake just now? Could it be that everything was fake? The two sisters found it unbelievable. It's so cold! Ale cried. At this moment, her face was no longer flushed. Instead, a layer of frost had appeared. At the same time, every time she exhaled, a layer of frost would appear in the air. Ha ha ha. At this time, Xiao Hongyun let out an earth-shattering laugh, laughing hysterically. Old man, you two stinky girls, you still want to leave? If you leave, what will happen to Ning and I? We can't let our bright futures be ruined in your hands. Xiao Hongyun laughed. At this moment, he completely revealed his true nature. His face was full of ferocity. And you, boy, how dare you interfere? I'll kill you. Xiao Hongyun stared at Lu Ming ferociously. Bastard, you bastard! Xiao Zhan roared. He was extremely sad and disappointed. Just now, he really thought that Xiao Hongyun had found his conscience and turned over a new leaf. He did not expect that everything was fake. Xiao Hongyun pretended to be pitiful and remorseful in front of them just to trick them into drinking and eating. He had already poisoned the wine and food. At this moment, a layer of frost appeared on Xiao Zhan's face. A layer of light suffused his body as he tried to force the poison out. However, he had not fully recovered, so it was useless. Old man, there's no need to force the poison out. It's useless. This is Snowheart poison. It's 10 times more poisonous than the rainbow viper. You can't force it out. Xiao Hongyun sneered. Snowheart poison. Xiao Zhan's face was covered in misery. Snowheart poison was extremely famous among all the strange poisons in the world. Without an antidote, even a spirit god would find it difficult to force out the poison once poisoned. Old man, I might as well tell you something else. You were bitten by the rainbow viper in the chaotic mountain range. It was young Master Yunкong who lured the rainbow viper over. Otherwise, he. Xiao Hongyun continued to sneer. What, bastard? Then you were the one who revealed my whereabouts? Xiao Zhan staggered. and almost lost his footing. Ha ha ha, that's right. Besides me and Ning, only a Hui and a Lei knew about your whereabouts. Who else could it be? Xiao Hongyin and Xiao Ning laughed arrogantly. Bastard! Xiao Zhan's face was covered in misery and despair. How can I take control of the Xiao clan if you don't die? Also, how can those two girls marry Ling Yunkong if you don't die? Do you know that you're an obstacle to me? Xiao Hongyin's face was savage. That's right. Old man, I'm your grandson as well. But why do you have to protect those two stinking girls? They're clearly so valuable. Why do you want to waste them? Xiao Ning screamed from the side. Xiao Zhan had given up all hope. Xiao Hongyin and his son were no different from animals. It's not just the two of you, right? The others should be here soon. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly spoke. Hee kid, you're right. A sneer resounded as a dozen figures flashed into the hall. Ling Kai and the other youths from the Hanging Mountain Range were among them. It was Ling Kai who had spoken just now. Besides him, there were 7 or 8 middle-aged or old men. All of them had powerful auras and profound cultivations. Chapter 1003. Old man, how dare you disobey young Master Yunkong? You're courting death. How dare you try to sneak away? Humph! Young Master Yunkong has taken a fancy to these two girls. Do you think you can escape? Ling Kai glanced coldly at Xiao Zhan, A Hui, and A Lei. Xiao Zhan, A Hui, and A Lei turned pale. They knew that they were doomed this time. And you, boy, how dare you injure us? You're courting death. Aren't you in our hands now? Ling Kai looked ferociously at Lu Ming, licked his lips, and continued. But don't worry, I won't kill you easily. I'll let you suffer all the torture in the world and let you die in pain. Sigh. At this time, Lu Ming suddenly sighed. Humph, it's too late to sigh now. Ling Kai said coldly. I'm just sighing. My good mood was ruined by a few stray dogs. What a bummer. Lu Ming sighed. Then, in front of everyone's shocked eyes, he picked up the flagon on the table and said, But this is good wine. Don't waste it. After saying that, Lu Ming opened his mouth and sucked. The wine in the flagon turned into a column of water and flew into Lu Ming's mouth. Lu Ming gulped down every drop. Everyone was dumbfounded. You're not poisoned? How is that possible? Xiao Hongyun shouted in disbelief. He thought he was dreaming. He had clearly seen Lu Ming drink many cups of wine. How could he not be poisoned? Moreover, Lu Ming had drunk all the remaining wine. What was going on? Was Lu Ming not afraid of poison? Ling Kai and the others were also dumbfounded. They had brought the snow heart poison here. They had given the antidote to Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning in advance. Then, they had poisoned the wine and dishes. Their main target was Lu Ming. In their eyes, Lu Ming was the most dangerous, while Xiao Zhan and the others were no threat at all. The process went unexpectedly smoothly. Xiao Hongyun and his son successfully brought Xiao Zhan and the others here, and Lu Ming and the others also successfully drank and ate. Moreover, Lu Ming drank the most wine and ate the most dishes. But now, how could Lu Ming be fine? Ling Kai knew better than anyone how powerful the snow heart poison was. Xiao Zhan, A Hui, and A Lei were a little stunned at first, but then their eyes revealed hope. Lu Ming was actually fine. Earlier, they had already given up all hope. But now, hope was born again. I don't mind telling you, the moment I picked up the wine cup, I knew it was poisoned. Lu Ming looked disdainfully at Xiao Hongyun and smiled faintly. You know. Why did you still drink it? Xiao Hongyun was still in disbelief. Because this is good wine. How can I let it go to waste? Moreover, I also want to see what kind of tricks you have up your sleeves. Lu Ming smiled faintly and stood up. Light swirled around his body, and a cold aura filled the air. Then he stretched out his hand and pointed it at Xiao Zhan, A Hui, and A Lei. A huge devouring power exploded. Then, white threads of light flew out from the three of them. When the white threads of light flew through the air, a layer of sparkling white frost appeared in the air. The white threads flew into Lu Ming's palm and were devoured by Lu Ming. Xiao Zhan, Hui, and Ah Lei's faces became rosy. The poison in their bodies had been neutralized. Xiao Hongyan, Xiao Ning, Ling Kai, and the others widened their eyes in shock, absorbing the poison from a person's body and neutralizing it through the air. They had never heard of such a detoxification method. Now it's your turn. Since you're here, don't even think about leaving. Lu Ming's gaze swept across, and a cold, murderous intent burst out. Not good, retreat. Xiao Hongyun's heart skipped a beat. Without hesitation, he pulled Xiao Ning and retreated rapidly. However, even though they were fast, Lu Ming was faster. Lu Ming moved like a stream of light and appeared in front of Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning. He pointed 2 fingers at them. The 2 of them could not resist and were hit by Lu Ming's fingers on their dantian. Puff! Puff! Like a punctured balloon, Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning screamed. Their bodies flew out and fell to the ground. Their auras were weak, and they were like ordinary people. Their cultivation had been destroyed by Lu Ming. Ah, my cultivation base, my cultivation base! Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning screamed miserably, their voices filled with despair. It's over, it's all over. They had wanted to rely on Ling Yunkong to climb up the ranks. Now, before they could curry favor with Ling Yunkong, their cultivation had been destroyed and they had become cripples. There was no hope left. Go, go, go! Ling Kai's pupils contracted rapidly as he screamed. He was about to retreat. Whoosh! Suddenly, Lu Ming appeared in front of Ling Kai. He grabbed Ling Kai's neck and lifted him into the air. Let go of me. What are you doing? I'm with young Master Yunkong. Ling Kai yelled and tried to threaten Lu Ming. Devour! Lu Ming spat out a word coldly, and the devouring power suddenly erupted. Ling Kai screamed and struggled. However, to everyone's horror, Ling Kai's body shriveled like a ball and turned into a dried corpse. Bloodthirsty skill. This is Cold Blood Hall's bloodthirsty skill. You're from Cold Blood Hall. Go, go! The others from Floating Mountain screamed and tried to escape. Did I say you could leave? Stay here. Lu Ming stretched out his hand and clenched his fist. Boom! A terrifying, devouring power erupted, enveloping everyone from the Floating Mountain sect within. They screamed in horror as their bloodline power, essence blood, fresh blood, and genuine vitality flew out of their bodies and were devoured by Lu Ming. It was a horrible feeling. They watched themselves being devoured and the people around them turning into dried corpses. No, no! After a while, all the people from Floating Mountain turned into dried corpses and were devoured by Lu Ming. Almost all of them cultivated the essence of water. Lu Ming's essence of water began to improve as the 9 dragons' bloodline continued to refine them. Only Xiao Hongyun, Xiao Ning, Xiao Zhan, Hui, and Ah Lei were left. Not a single person from the Hanging Mountain was left alive. A foul stench wafted in the hall. Lu Ming turned around. It was Xiao Ning. He looked at Lu Ming in horror. He was so scared that he had wet his pants. Xiao Hongyun's face was also pale and full of despair. Xiao Zhan and the other 2 looked at Lu Ming in shock. Little brother Lu, you're a disciple of Cold Blood Hall. Xiao Zhan asked, Cold Blood Hall? I've never heard of it. I'm not a disciple of Cold Blood Hall. Lu Ming shook his head. You're not a disciple of Cold Blood Hall. Xiao Zhan heaved a sigh of relief. He seemed to be very afraid of Cold Blood Hall. Senior Xiao, I'll leave these 2 to you. Lu Ming pointed at Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning. Xiao Zhan's eyes flashed with killing intent. Father, father, spare my life. Please spare me this time. I was blinded by lard for a moment. I won't dare to do it again. Xiao Hongyun begged. That's what you said before. You 2 bastards. Leaving you alive will only harm others. I might as well kill you myself. Chapter 1004. Dad, please let us go this time. I'm your son. Xiao Hongyun begged. Grandpa, I beg you, please let me go. This has nothing to do with me. It's all my dad's fault. Yes, it's all his fault. He forced me to do this. Xiao Ning screamed and begged, pushing all the blame onto Xiao Hongyun. Bastard! How dare you slander me? If not for you sucking up to Ling Yunkong, why would I do this? Xiao Hongyun looked at Xiao Ning in disbelief and anger. Grandpa, if you want to kill him, just kill him. I'm innocent. I'm the last man in the Xiao family. I still have to pass on the heirs of the Xiao family. You're the one who gave me this idea. Grandpa, if you want to kill him, just kill him. I'm innocent. I'm the last man in the Xiao family. Xiao Ning shouted. Bastard, bastard, I'll kill you. Xiao Hongyun roared and rushed toward Xiao Ning. Don't think I'm afraid of you. Xiao Ning also rushed towards Xiao Hongyun. Their cultivations were crippled, and they fought with their physical strength. Misfortune of the family, misfortune of the family. Xiao Zhan's face was dejected, as if he had aged a few decades. After a while, Xiao Zhan's eyes revealed a look of determination. A sword appeared in his hand, and he said, What's the use of keeping two scum alive? Whoosh! With a flash of sword light, two heads flew high into the air, their faces filled with disbelief. After killing Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning, Xiao Zhan staggered as if he had lost all his strength. Grandpa! Ah Hui and Ah Lei quickly supported Xiao Zhan. Senior Xiao, you can't fall. The Xiao family and Ah Hui and Ah Lei still need you to take care of them. Lu Ming said. Xiao Zhan took a deep breath to calm himself down and said, Yes, Ah Hui and Ah Lei are the hope of the Xiao family. We can't let anything happen to them. Let's leave Lishui City and Floating Mountain now. I'll send you off first, Lu Ming said. Then the four of them left the Xiao family under the cover of the night. But just as they stepped out of the Xiao family's house, a bright sword light violently slashed towards them. Lu Ming's face changed. Rumble. The sword light slashed towards the Xiao clan, leaving behind a deep sword scar. Half of the Xiao clan was split into two. A group of figures appeared in the air. Each and every one of them had a cold look in their eyes, and a powerful aura emanated from their bodies. People from the Floating Mountain sect. Xiao Zhan's expression changed drastically. It seems that Ling Kai and the others are dead. Fortunately, I was worried and rushed over personally. Otherwise, you would have really escaped. A cold voice came from afar. A young man in a white robe walked over while waving a folding fan. Soaring Cloud. Xiao Zhan, Ah Hui, and Ah Lei cried out in alarm. Their faces turned even uglier and even more desperate. One of the top 10 geniuses of the Hanging Mountain, Ling Yunkong, had actually come in person. Whoosh! 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 Around the Xiao clan, many figures appeared in a flash. They flew into the sky and looked over. The commotion caused by the previous sword strike was so great that everyone within 100 li could hear it. They all rushed over to see what was going on. People from the Floating Mountain sect. Ling Yunkong, it's Ling Yunkong. Ling Yunkong has come personally. The Xiao clan is finished. Someone recognized Ling Yunkong and let out a cry of alarm. Brother Lu, leave quickly. Leave quickly. Xiao Zhan anxiously called out to Lu Ming. Lu Ming's battle strength was not bad, but he was definitely not a match for Ling Yunkong. Ling Yunkong was one of the top 10 geniuses of the Floating Mountain sect. His battle strength was terrifying, and countless seniors were not his match. One of the top 10 geniuses of the Floating Mountain sect? Lu Ming's mouth curved into a smile. Instead, his eyes revealed a trace of battle intent and anticipation. The Floating Mountain sect was one of the top forces in the Central Continent. It was a force on the same level as the Emperor Heaven Deity Palace and the Heavenly Corpse sect. Lu Ming was very curious about the level of the geniuses in such a force. Leave. Today, none of you will leave. Ling Yunkong's voice was cold. His gaze swept over and landed on Ah Hui and Ah Lei. Flames of passion flashed in his eyes. He had played with countless beautiful women in his life, but he had never played with such a pair of pure and lovely twins. Just thinking about it made him excited. "Old man, kill yourself. And that kid, kill yourself too. That way, I can leave your corpses intact," Ling Yunkong said indifferently. Haha, this is the character of one of the top 10 geniuses of the Floating Mountain sect. Today I finally see it. How disappointing. Lu Ming shook his head and sighed. In the air, the faces of the experts of the Floating Mountain sect changed. Ling Yunkong's face also darkened. He stared coldly at Lu Ming and said, "Good kid. Very good. Just because of what you said, I won't let you die. I will let you live. But I will make you regret living." Ling Kai said the same thing before, but he is now a dead dog. "I hope you have the right to say it," Lu Ming replied indifferently. "Go, cripple him." Ling Yunkong's eyes flashed with killing intent as he waved his hand. Bang! An elder took a step forward, and a steel fork appeared in his hand. His aura rose, and a powerful pressure pressed towards Lu Ming. It was incomparably shocking. 6th level of spirit embryo realm. This elder's cultivation had reached the 6th level of spirit embryo realm. Boom! The elder waved the steel fork and smashed it towards Lu Ming. "Be careful! Brother Lu, be careful!" Xiao Zhan and the Xiao sisters cried out in unison, extremely worried. Lu Ming's palm glowed, and a spear condensed from his vital essence. The spear swept out and struck the steel fork. With a clang, the steel fork trembled violently and was sent flying. Lu Ming rose into the air, and the spear transformed into a ray of light with a faint dragon roar coming out. Upper grade half-god level martial technique. Dazzling dragon spear arts. Pucci! The spear broke through all of the elder's defenses and killed him in one strike. What? The people who were watching the battle not far away were all shocked. Lu Ming's abilities were so strong, killing a person of the 6th level of spirit embryo realm with one strike. Such a young prodigy couldn't be a nameless person in the entire central continent. Ling Yunkong's eyes flickered slightly. It was obvious that Lu Ming's cultivation had exceeded his expectations. "Looks like I have to do it myself today," Ling Yunkong said. He was only slightly surprised, but Lu Ming wasn't enough for him to take seriously. This was because he could kill an ordinary person of the 6th level of spirit embryo realm with a flick of his finger. Bang! Ling Yunkong took a step forward, and the sky trembled violently. Heaven and earth shook. Ling Yunkong is going to do it! Some people exclaimed, but more people's eyes glowed. It had been half a year since the Battle of Providence. During this time, the entire central continent was very peaceful, as if all the prodigies were in seclusion. It was completely different from before the Battle of Providence began. Before the Battle of Providence began, the prodigies battled each other, and there were battles every day. However, after the Battle of Providence, it was completely silent. All the prodigies seemed to be digesting the things they had obtained from the Battle of Providence, and were in seclusion to raise their cultivation. In this half a year, it was rare to see some of the top prodigies fight. Was Ling Yunkong going to do it now? Chapter 1005. That was because most people couldn't see the final showdown of the Battle of Providence. Only the top echelons of the overlords could see it. The combat power of these supreme talents was rumored. Only a few people could see it with their own eyes. Now they finally had the chance. Boom! 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 Lu Ming took one step at a time, stepping in the air. With every step he took, Ling Yunkong's aura would become stronger. In the end, his aura was as strong as an immemorial sacred mountain. A huge pressure pressed down on Lu Ming. Xiao Zhan and the Xiao sisters couldn't help but retreat. Their eyes were filled with horror. They felt like ants in front of Ling Yunkong. There was no way they could resist him. "Brother Lu." The Xiao sisters looked at Lu Ming with worry. Ling Yunkong was so strong. Could Lu Ming fight him? However, Lu Ming's figure was as steady as a rock. He did not move at all. Even the corners of his clothes did not move. Ling Yunkong's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. A person who could remain unmoved under his aura wasn't simple. You're not bad. You're worthy of my attention. What's your name? Ling Yunkong's words surprised many people. Ling Yunkong actually said that Lu Ming was worth his time. That young man who stood there motionless was actually that powerful. Was he worthy of Ling Yunkong's attention? You're not qualified to know my name. Lu Ming said lightly. Lu Ming's voice wasn't loud, but it spread like a storm. Everyone's eyes widened. Lu Ming said that Ling Yunkong wasn't qualified to know his name? Crazy, too crazy, crazy to the point of no bounds. Who was Ling Yunkong? He was one of the top 10 supreme talents of the Xiankong Mountain. Although he was only ranked 10th, there were more than 10 million disciples in the Xiankong Mountain. There were countless geniuses and experts. To be able to stand out among the countless geniuses and be ranked 10th was enough to show how terrifying he was. But now, Lu Ming said that Ling Yunkong wasn't even qualified to know his name. He's too arrogant. This young man probably came from the mountains and hasn't seen the world. He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. In my opinion, he's just a frog at the bottom of a well. He thinks that he has some ability and doesn't put the world's heroes in his eyes. Just watch, he'll be miserable later. I think I've heard of his name from the Shao family. I think he's called Lu Shaoqing. Lu Shaoqing? I've never heard of him. Now that the Battle of Providence has just ended, all the powerful geniuses have become famous, yet I've never heard of this name. Could it be that he didn't participate in the Battle of Providence? You see, I was right. This person must be a country bumpkin who just walked out from some remote mountain. There were discussions around the Shaoling Shaozhan. Ahui and Ah Lei were trembling with fear. Lu Ming's words would infuriate Ling Yunkong even more. Haha! Ling Yunkong laughed and said coldly, "Arrogant, really arrogant. I, Ling Yunkong, have been called arrogant by others, but you're even more arrogant than me. However, you need to have the right to be arrogant. I'll make sure you can't be arrogant later." You're right. You need to have the right to be arrogant. Otherwise, you're courting death. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Obviously, Lu Ming was talking about Ling Yunkong. Then I'll show you what I've got. Boom! As soon as he finished his words, Ling Yun took a heavy step forward. With a wave of his palm, a ray of sparkling and translucent blue saber gleam slashed toward Lu Ming. The terrifying aura seemed to be able to split the entire world apart. Lu Ming smiled faintly. His long spear shook and a dragon roared. A spear radiance burst out and collided with the sword light. Boom! The energy exploded and the space shook. The spear radiance and the sword light both dissipated. Ling Yunkong didn't move, and neither did Lu Ming. He blocked it. That Lu Shaoqing actually blocked Ling Yunkong's attack. Unbelievable. How is that possible? He actually has such strong combat power? Some people exclaimed in disbelief. Peak of the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Lu Ming's gaze moved. He already knew that Ling Yunkong's cultivation had reached the peak of the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Half a year ago, he was already at the same level as Demon Lord Luo Tian in the Battle of Providence. However, Lu Ming felt that Ling Yunkong's combat power shouldn't be as strong as Luo Tian's. His talent should be slightly weaker than Luo Tian's. Not to mention that half a year had passed since the Battle of Providence. Ling Yunkong was only at the peak of the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. From this point alone, he was weaker than Luo Tian. After all, Luo Tian was ranked 10th among all the human prodigies in Eastern Wilderness. Not bad. Since you can take one of my attacks, then take another. 100 Waves Saber Art. Ling Yunkong's aura became stronger, and the sword radiance broke through the air. The sound of stormy waves could be heard. Ling Yunkong's sword radiance was like a wave. Wave after wave, it slashed towards Lu Ming. Whoosh! Lu Ming's long spear shook, and the long spear, condensed by his true essence, rapidly expanded. It was like a pillar that supported the sky, and there were 5 colored lights lingering on it. Yes, 5 colors, 5 different intents. Just now, Lu Ming had swallowed the intents of water of Ling Kai and the others and had been refining them. Now Lu Ming's intents of water had broken through and reached the lower tier of the 3rd level. Although it wasn't on par with the intents of earth, wind, fire, and thunder, it was still very powerful when the 5 intents exploded together. Boom! The huge long spear was very direct and domineering, crushing everything in its way. Boom! 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 Heaven and earth shook continuously. Ling Yunkong's sword radiance was constantly crushed and shattered. In the end, the long spear didn't stop and continued to smash towards Ling Yunkong. How can this be? Ling Yunkong's pupils contracted rapidly, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. How can Lu Ming be so strong? He broke his 100-wave saber art and still had the energy to smash towards him? All the spectators around also widened their eyes in disbelief. Lu Ming's spear was too amazing, and its power was unimaginable. It actually started to suppress Ling Yunkong, one of the top 10 prodigies of the floating mountain. Ling Yunkong roared, his long hair fluttering in the wind, and the saber in his hand constantly slashed out. In a short period of time, he had slashed out at least a few thousand times to block Lu Ming's long spear. But the result was that he was pushed back 1,000 meters, his chest heaving up and down. That's all you got? I thought you were more powerful. You're so arrogant with such little strength. It's a miracle that you're still alive. Lu Ming said indifferently. Ling Yunkong's face was red with anger. He was very arrogant just now, and even said that he had to be qualified to be arrogant. The fact proved that he wasn't qualified to be arrogant in front of Lu Ming. His words were like slapping his own face. This made him furious, and he couldn't wait to kill Lu Ming. Die! Ling Yunkong roared, and at the same time a giant elephant appeared above his head. This giant elephant had 5 golden chakras around it. A level 5 divine realm bloodline was indeed weaker than Luo Tian's. However, it made sense. The floating mountain was only at the same level as the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace or the Heavenly Corpse sect. Ling Yunkong was only ranked 10th in the floating mountain. If the 10th was as strong as Luo Tian, wouldn't it mean that the floating mountain was as strong as the entire eastern wilderness? Chapter 1006. It's Ling Yunkong's bloodline. Is this the level 5 divine bloodline? The legendary divine beast, the water god elephant. It is as famous as the ancient war elephant. It can control all the water in the world. Exclamations came from all around. Ling Yunkong had used the bloodline fusion and turned into the water god elephant. The water god elephant was 1,000 meters tall, and it towered into the clouds, blocking out the sun. It let out a long howl that shook the entire Lishui city. Countless people looked at the gigantic creature in the sky in shock. Boom! The water god elephant stepped out towards Lu Ming. Ahui! Lei and Xiao Zhan were terrified. Such power was too shocking. It was as if it could destroy the world. However, Lu Ming's eyes were still as calm as water. The long spear in his hands enlarged again, becoming a few thousand meters long. It was indomitable, stirring up the wind and clouds. Boom! A huge spear radiance blasted towards the water god elephant. The clouds in the sky were shattered and starlight shone down. The water god elephant let out a long howl, and its trunk rolled towards the spear radiance. An earth-shattering explosion was heard, and the space shook. However, the final result was shocking. The 5-colored spear radiance destroyed the elephant's trunk, and the body of the spear struck the water god elephant. The water god elephant let out a wail, and its gigantic body was pushed back. It stepped on the void, and the void rippled like water. Ling Yunkong is going to lose, someone exclaimed. Everyone was shocked. Ling Yunkong had even used the bloodline fusion, but he was still no match for Qin Fan. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming's body was as small as an ant, but he wielded the 1,000-meter-long spear and attacked the water god elephant continuously. After a few explosions, the water god elephant let out a cry and exploded. It turned into Ling Yunkong. Ling Yunkong's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. Blood spurted out of his mouth. He did not dare to stay any longer. He turned into a ray of blade radiance and disappeared into the distance. "Brat, just you wait." Ling Yunkong's voice came from afar. Lu Ming's eyes flashed a few times, but he did not chase after him. He had some misgivings, not because of himself, but because of the Shao clan. Ling Yunkong was one of the 10 great geniuses of the Hanging Mountain, after all. Killing him might infuriate the Hanging Mountain, and at that time they would dispatch a few domain enlightened spirit god realm experts. Ling Yunkong could simply leave, and the members of the Shao clan would be in trouble. Therefore, Lu Ming did not give chase. At this time, the spectators looked at Lu Ming with eyes full of awe, shock, and curiosity. Lu Ming had actually defeated Ling Yunkong. This meant that he was an even stronger genius than Ling Yunkong. But why hadn't he heard of this name before? Did he really not participate in the Battle of Providence? Lu, big brother, Hui, and the others were also dumbfounded. They never thought that Lu Ming would be this strong. Even Ling Yunkong was not his opponent. What kind of strength was this? Was this still the same young man who had been injured by the demonic beast? They recalled the time when they'd first met Lu Ming in the chaotic mountain range. At this moment, their beautiful eyes suddenly lit up. At that time, they'd met Lu Ming because of a grade 8 demonic beast's rage. At that time, they'd thought that Lu Ming had been implicated by the grade 8 demonic beast's rage and had been injured by some other small demonic beasts. But now that they thought about it, the grade 8 demonic beast's rage might have been because of Lu Ming. Lu Ming might have been injured by that grade 8 demonic beast, and not some small demonic beast. Xiao Zhan was even more surprised. He'd cultivated for many years, so he knew very well how strong Ling Yunkong was. He'd been at the peak of the 5th level of the spirit embryo realm at his peak, but he'd definitely been instantly killed by Ling Yunkong. However, Ling Yunkong had been easily defeated by Lu Ming. "Let's go. We'll leave first." Lu Ming waved his hand, and the spear vanished. He smiled at Hui and the others. Yes, okay." The few of them seemed to have woken up from a dream, and the group of 4 headed out of Lishui City. Lu Ming naturally didn't care about defeating Ling Yunkong. To him, Ling Yunkong wasn't even a match for him. Ling Yunkong's cultivation was weaker than his, so he hadn't even used the power of his bloodline. He'd only used his cultivation and concept to defeat him. The fusion of 5 concepts is indeed much stronger than 4 concepts. It's a pity that the concept of water is still slightly weaker. If it was on par with the other concepts, the explosive power would definitely be even more terrifying. Lu Ming thought to himself. The 4 of them headed north of Lishui City. After leaving the city, the 4 of them changed their appearances and clothes. Hui and Lei's appearances had become much more ordinary and less eye-catching. Lu Ming had also turned into a youth around 30 years old. They kept heading north, crossing over the plain of 10,000 lakes. After flying for about 1,000,000 miles, they stopped at a small island in the middle of a lake. This small island in the middle of the lake was very peaceful and suitable for living in seclusion. Xiao Zhan, Hui, and Lei planned to stay here for the time being. The water vapor here was abundant, and Lu Ming also planned to cultivate here for a period of time. Next, the 4 of them settled down here. Every day, Lu Ming sat cross-legged on the surface of the lake, comprehending the concept of water. To him, he could not afford to waste even the slightest bit of time. The talisman puppet sex yin and yang formation could only last for 5 years. But now, almost half a year had passed. Lu Ming felt that time was too tight. He had to seize every bit of time to cultivate and improve himself as soon as possible. Xiao Zhan would disguise himself and go out to gather information every day. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. Lu Ming cultivated every day and made great progress in the concept of water. On this day, Xiao Zhan returned with a worried face. Seeing this, Ahui and Lei hurriedly asked Xiao Zhan what had happened. At first, Xiao Zhan didn't say anything. Later, he had no choice but to tell the truth. It turned out that he had heard an important piece of news when he went out. Ling Yunkong had returned and seemed to have invited the Floating Sky Mountains experts over. Moreover, he had captured many Shao family disciples who had left. At this time, Ling Yunkong had detained the Shao family disciples and released the news that Lu Shaoqing, Xiao Zhan, and the others should return. Otherwise, he would kill all the Shao family disciples. Despicable, this Ling Yunkong is actually so despicable. Ahui gritted her teeth. No matter what, Ling Yunkong was still one of the Floating Sky Mountains' top 10 geniuses. Who would have thought that he would be so despicable and shameless? After being defeated by Lu Ming, he actually captured the Shao family disciples to threaten them. Ahui and Lei gritted their teeth. Xiao Zhan's face was full of worry, but Lu Ming's expression was calm. "You guys stay here, I'll go take a look." Lu Ming said, "No, little brother Lu, you've helped us too much. This old man will never be able to repay your kindness in this lifetime. I can't let you take any more risks." Xiao Zhan shook his head resolutely. "Yeah, big brother Lu, that Ling Yunkong must have found an expert stronger than him. If you go, won't you be in danger?" Ahui also said, "It's fine. I'm just going to take a look. I won't show myself if I'm not confident." Lu Ming smiled. Hearing Lu Ming's words, they hesitated. "Don't worry, you guys wait here for my news." Chapter 1007. Lishui City. In front of the Shao clan's residence, there were at least 50 Shao clan disciples tied up and kneeling on the ground. Ling Yunkong was sitting on a chair with an indifferent expression. Beside him were some experts from the Floating Mountain sect. There were many spectators around the Shao clan. Ling Yunkong's methods are too despicable. He actually used such methods to force Xiao Zhan and Lu Shaoqing to come out. It's indeed despicable, but not all of the Floating Mountain sect's geniuses are like this. Some of them are quite straightforward. I heard that the second-ranked genius of the Floating Mountain sect, Chu Kuang, is very straightforward and likes to make friends. I wonder if that's true? That's true. Speaking of which, Ling Yunkong was defeated by Lu Shaoqing last time, but he still dares to come back. Isn't he afraid of being defeated again? That's because he brought experts with him. Do you see that youth sitting cross-legged on the right side of Ling Yunkong? That's Hai Ziming. What? That's Hai Ziming, the 5th-ranked genius of the Floating Mountain sect? Countless people were discussing, but they kept their voices low for fear of being heard by Ling Yunkong. In the end, more people's gazes fell on the youth on the right side of Ling Yunkong. The youth was wearing a blue robe and had an ordinary appearance. He was the type that couldn't be picked out in a crowd. But after hearing his name, no one dared to look down on him, because he was Hai Ziming. It was said that Hai Ziming was the fastest rising genius of the Floating Mountain sect. He was also the youngest, not even 25 years old. He rose like a comet in the Battle of Karmic Luck, shocking everyone. After the Battle of Karmic Luck, he was ranked 5th among the 10 geniuses of the Floating Mountain sect. He was much stronger than Ling Yunkong. Who would have thought that Ling Yunkong would invite Hai Ziming this time? Clearly, he was here to deal with Lu Shaoqing. Continue to spread the news. If Lu Shaoqing and Xiao Zhan don't appear, I'll kill a Shao clan disciple every 2 hours. At this time, Ling Yunkong revealed an impatient expression and coldly ordered an old man beside him. Yes, the old man hurriedly nodded. Enough. At this moment, Hai Ziming opened his eyes. His eyes flashed as he spat out 2 words. The old man's expression immediately changed, and he stood there motionlessly. Ling Yunkong frowned. Ling Yunkong, I came with you to meet Lu Shaoqing. What you did was too despicable, Hai Ziming said indifferently. Ling Yunkong frowned as his eyes flickered with displeasure before he forced a smile and said, Junior brother Hai, that Lu Shaoqing and the old man from the Shao clan are hiding. If we don't use this method, how could they show themselves? Forget about killing people, Yang Qi said. Also, once they arrive, let these people go. They're all people with weak cultivation bases. Killing them would be bad for the reputation of the Hanging Mountain sect. Hai Ziming said, All right, junior brother Hai, I know what to do. Ling Yunkong's voice turned cold. Hai Ziming frowned. If it wasn't for the fact that Ling Yunkong had helped him before he rose to power, he would never have followed Ling Yunkong here to do such a thing. Ling Yunkong, I've already helped you twice. This is the last time. After this, we don't know each other anything. Hai Ziming said indifferently. Humph. Ling Yunkong grunted coldly and didn't say anything. As soon as he finished speaking, Hai Ziming closed his eyes again. Lu Shaoqing is here. Right at this moment, someone exclaimed with surprise. What? Where? Over there. The gazes of the crowd shot towards the sky in unison. Ling Yunkong's spirits shook while his gaze flickered explosively. On the other hand, Hai Ziming opened his eyes as well, and two dazzling spear lights shot out from his eyes. A black-robed young man with his hands behind his back strode through the sky from the north. It was Lu Ming. When Lu Ming arrived at Lishui City and found out that Ling Yunkong hadn't brought a domain enlightened spirit god and had only invited a young genius over, Lu Ming didn't conceal himself and directly made an appearance. Obviously, how could a domain enlightened spirit god possibly be invited by Ling Yunkong to do such a thing? That person would probably be ridiculed by the entire world. Lu Shaoqing. Ling Yunkong stared at Lu Ming and gnashed his teeth as he spoke word by word. What? I didn't teach you enough the last time, so you're looking for a beating this time? Lu Ming glanced at Ling Yunkong and spoke with disdain. This caused Ling Yunkong to gnash his teeth once more. Lu Shaoqing, where's that old fellow from the Shao clan and those two little girls? Asked Ling Yunkong in a cold voice. You want to know? Why should I tell you? Lu Ming smiled faintly and said, The geniuses of Void Mountain always play such tricks. They used innocent people to draw me out. Now that I've come out, feel free to use any ability you have, all right? Humph. How could all of you have come out otherwise? Lu Shaoqing, aren't you very strong? Today, I'll let junior brother Hai Ziming experience your strength, said Ling Yunkong. Oh, so it's a different person? But I'm not interested in fighting now that it's a different person. I'm slightly interested if you fight him yourself. Lu Ming smiled. Ling Yunkong's expression grew even more unsightly. How could he dare to fight him himself? Lu Shaoqing, it's not up to you today. Ling Yunkong laughed coldly. Lu Shaoqing, fight with me. Hai Ziming stood up, his eyes bursting with a strong battle intent. You want to fight me? Sure. Why don't we have a bet? Said Lu Ming. How? Asked Hai Ziming. It's very simple. If I lose, I'll cripple my own cultivation and hand them over to you. I'll also hand over Senior Shao Zhan, Ahui, and Ale. But if you lose, you have to swear that you won't touch anyone from the Shao clan, no matter what. Said Lu Ming. Why should I agree? You have no choice now. The lives of these Shao clan disciples are in my hands. You'd better listen to me, obediently. Ling Yunkong sneered and refused directly. Is that so? Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. Suddenly, Lu Ming took a step forward and used the 9 Dragons Heaven Stomp, pouncing towards Lu Ming and Ling Yunkong. In the process of pouncing, Lu Ming erupted with 2 dragon energies. Purple scales immediately appeared on Lu Ming's body. Hi! Lu Ming's mind stirred and his muscles wriggled. That purple scale armor actually did not appear. Instead, it merely covered his skin. It made his body look like it was just filled with a layer of purple light. Lu Ming's physical body had now reached complete rank 8, which was extremely powerful. Lu Ming realized that when he erupted with dragon energies, he could control his physical body so that the scales would not appear on the surface of his skin, but hide under his skin. In this way, the vision would not be too obvious and would not be noticed by people with intentions. Of course, this was related to the strength of the physical body and the eruption of dragon energies. Chapter 1008. Lu Ming unleashed the power of 2 dragons and performed the 9 dragons' sky-stomping steps at the same time. His body was like a ray of light. He was too fast. In an instant, he was in front of Ling Yunkong. Although Ling Yunkong was on guard, he was still shocked. He hastily made a move. However, his attack and defense were as fragile as tofu in front of Lu Ming's palm. Lu Ming's palm penetrated all defenses and grabbed Ling Yunkong's throat. The energy burst forth. Ling Yunkong's neck seemed to be broken. He let out a scream, and the vital essence in his body almost dissipated. The surrounding people were all stunned. Lu Ming actually restrained Ling Yunkong in one move. It was unbelievable. After a long time, the crowd came to their senses. "How dare you? Let go of young Master Yunkong. Do you know that you're courting death?" Several old men shouted. They were all Ling Yunkong's trusted subordinates. "Shut up. Believe it or not, I'll break his neck now." Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a fierce light. Killing intent burst out. The old men hurriedly shut up. "Lu Shaoqing, I'm a genius of the Floating Mountain sect. If you kill me, the experts of the Floating Mountain sect won't let you go." Ling Yunkong roared. "You've lost so miserably in a fight between peers. Do you really think that the seniors of the Floating Mountain sect will stand up for you? Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by the world?" Lu Ming sneered. His eyes were cold. Ling Yunkong shuddered, and there was a trace of fear in his eyes. Indeed, in a fight between peers, if he was defeated and killed, the seniors of the sect would take revenge. Didn't the other party have seniors? At that time, the other party's seniors would also take action to kill the young geniuses on their side. In that case, how could the young geniuses in the world have a chance to rise? Wouldn't they all die? Whether it was the eastern wilderness, the central continent, or other places, this was an unwritten rule. Under normal circumstances, the seniors couldn't take action when the younger generation fought. Of course, special circumstances were an exception. "If I want to kill you, it'll be a piece of cake. Do you understand the difference between us now?" Lu Ming sneered and continued. "However, I won't kill you today. I can also agree to a battle with him. However, my condition is still the same as before. You can swear a blood oath that if you lose, you will never touch the Shao clan in any way. If you lose, I will fulfill my condition." Lu Ming pointed at Hai Ziming. Today, Lu Ming was going to completely resolve this problem for the Shao clan. Otherwise, if this continued, there would be no end to it. On one hand, he wanted to force Ling Yunkong to swear a blood oath. On the other hand, he wanted to display his strength to intimidate them. "I promise you, if I lose, I won't touch the Shao clan at all, and I won't let anyone touch the Shao clan either." Hai Ziming was the first to speak. In the end, Ling Yunkong had no choice. His life was in Lu Ming's hands, so he could only agree and swear a blood oath. Once a cultivator made a blood oath, they could not go against it. Otherwise, in the future, they would be plagued by inner demons. Not only would it be difficult to improve their cultivation, they might even go berserk. After Ling Yunkong swore a blood oath, Lu Ming flung Ling Yunkong away. "Damn it! I hope Hai Ziming can kill this Lu Shaoqing." Ling Yunkong's eyes flickered with cold killing intent. Lu Ming actually dared to treat him like this. This caused his killing intent to become incomparably thick. Moreover, he had lost all face today. His only hope now was that Hai Ziming could defeat Lu Ming. He still had a lot of confidence in Hai Ziming. He believed that the reason he was caught by Lu Ming was because Lu Ming caught him off guard. If he had been on full guard, Lu Ming wouldn't have been able to capture him, so easily. He wasn't the only one who thought so. In fact, many people thought so, because Lu Ming's sneak attack had succeeded just now. Moreover, Ling Yinkong was very clear about Hai Ziming's combat strength. Among all the prodigies of Floating Sky Mountain, Hai Ziming had caught up from behind. He rose up quickly and improved at an astonishing speed. He was considered a rising star. In the Battle of Destiny, Hai Ziming was ranked 5th among the 10 great prodigies of Floating Sky Mountain. However, after half a year, Ling Yinkong was clear that even the 4th-ranked prodigy of Floating Sky Mountain might not be a match for Hai Ziming. Therefore, he had confidence in Hai Ziming. Bang! Hai Ziming stepped out and stood opposite of Lu Ming. A powerful aura burst forth without any concealment. His eyes revealed an intense battle intent and excitement. Peak of the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Hai Ziming didn't conceal anything. Lu Ming could tell with a glance that Hai Ziming's cultivation had already reached the peak of the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Lu Shaoqing, let me have a taste of your strength. Hai Ziming's palm glowed and an ocean blue long spear appeared in his hand. Hai Ziming also used a spear. His long spear looked like it was forged from a blue gem. There would be water vapor emitting from it from time to time. Under the illumination of the sun, it gave off a colorful glow. Lu Ming's finger moved slightly and the infinite dragon spear appeared. Hai Ziming's eyes moved and he said, "Good spear." "Yours isn't bad either," Lu Ming said. "Then let's fight." Hai Ziming stepped out again and waved his long spear. In the air, spear shadows filled the sky and stabbed towards Lu Ming. Radiance spread out and countless spear shadows seemed to cover all of Lu Ming's paths. Wang! Lu Ming's long spear trembled, and similarly, spear shadows filled the sky and collided with Hai Ziming's spear shadows. Clang! 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 The concentrated collision sounds were like a torrential rain falling onto the ground. Endless. The spear shadows that filled the sky completely drowned out Lu Ming and Hai Ziming. Outsiders could only see the spear shadows and couldn't see them. There were at least a few thousand sounds before the sound stopped. The spear shadows that filled the sky disappeared and 2 figures appeared. Azure wave spear art. The long spear in Hai Ziming's hand spun and brandished. It was as if there were several large rivers revolving around the long spear. With a terrifying power, it charged towards Lu Ming. Spear concept. There is another concept that is also very terrifying. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Hai Ziming's talent was astonishing. He had actually comprehended 2 powerful concepts and had merged them into one. His battle strength was very powerful. The infinite dragon spear glowed with 5-colored radiance. At the same time, the infinite dragon spear operated the suppressing Hell Heaven skill. Every spear strike had a terrifying power that could suppress everything. Boom! The 2 spears collided. In the end, the large river collapsed and Hai Ziming's long spear was sent flying. Hai Ziming's body retreated rapidly. He retreated 100 meters before stopping with a grave expression. On the other hand, Ling Yinkong's expression was extremely ugly. Lu Ming was actually so powerful. The combat ability that he displayed now had already surpassed the combat ability that he had displayed during the battle with him previously. Obviously, Lu Ming was still hiding his strength. Powerful. Take my strongest move. Hai Ziming's eyes glowed. A long spear appeared above her head. There was also a large river revolving around the spear and 6 golden chakras floating. Level 6 divine grade bloodline. Hai Ziming used bloodline fusion and turned into a long spear. Boundless ocean. Hai Ziming's voice came out from the long spear. The long spear vibrated and spun in the air before thrusting out. Whoosh! Lu Ming seemed to see an ocean. The waves were shocking and had the power to destroy everything as they surged towards Lu Ming. Ocean concept. Chapter 1009. The intent of the spear and the intent of the sea merged together. The spear momentum was like the sea, with raging waves crashing on the shore. The sea was boundless, destroying everything. Strong, too strong. Back off, back off. In all directions, the hearts of the spectators sped up in the face of this move. They were terrified, as if they would be crushed by the sea in the next moment. Countless people screamed and retreated in panic. Ahui and Alei, who were standing on the ground, also had the same feeling. This feeling made them feel like they would be bombarded into ashes in the next moment. However, in front of them, a stalwart figure erupted with a shocking aura, blocking everything for them. Roar! There was a faint dragon roar coming from his body. The two dragon forces burst out, causing Lu Ming's body to glow purple again. Boom! This time, Lu Ming put away the infinite dragon spear, stepped forward and struck out with his palm. This palm was very ordinary, but it seemed to have the power to suppress the heavens and split everything. With a loud boom, everyone was shocked to see that the sea seemed to have been split into two by Lu Ming's palm. The endless sea swept and then collapsed. Bang! In the middle of the sea, a blue spear also collapsed. In the next moment, the sea disappeared, and so did the spear. The sky above Lishui City regained its tranquility. There was only a figure retreating rapidly, spilling a trace of blood in the air. Countless people looked at this scene in horror, because the person who retreated was Hai Ziming. Hai Ziming was defeated and retreated while vomiting blood. God, even Hai Ziming was defeated. Lu Shaoqing's combat strength is too amazing. In the entire central continent, Hai Ziming is almost ranked as a third-class genius, but he was still defeated. Could Lu Shaoqing be a third-class genius? It's very likely. Lu Shaoqing is actually ranked as a third-class genius. How terrifying! There was an uproar all around. Countless people looked at Lu Ming in shock. Impossible! How is this possible? Ling Yunkong roared, his eyes wide in disbelief. Lu Ming had defeated Hai Ziming. How could he be so strong? One had to know that there were not many people who could defeat Hai Ziming in the vast central continent. After all, in the vast middle continent, there were only 18 overlords. Even if some of the weaker forces had their own peerless geniuses, how many could there be? Ling Yunkong was furious, but the Shao clan members were ecstatic. They were saved. Ling Yunkong swore a blood oath that, as long as Hai Ziming lost, he would not touch the Shao family in any way. I lost. Hai Ziming stood in the air, his eyes filled with astonishment. Thanks for letting me win. Lu Ming cupped his hands. Lu Ming estimated that Hai Ziming's talent was not inferior to Eastern Wasteland King Fen Tian, Dongfang Yu, and the others. Lu Shaoqing, with your talent and combat strength, it's a pity that you didn't participate in the Battle of Providence. However, the Battle of Providence is only one of the stations for our rise. Even if you didn't participate, I believe that with your talent, you can also rise. Hai Ziming cupped his fists and revealed a look of admiration. He was very carefree and magnanimous, completely different from Ling Yunkong. You're welcome. Lu Ming smiled slightly. He nodded in his heart. This was normal. It was impossible for everyone to be like Ling Yunkong. Otherwise, the Floating Mountain sect would not be far from destruction. The battle has ended. Ling Yunkong, from now on, you and I don't know each other anything. At this moment, Hai Ziming looked at Ling Yunkong and said, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that Hai Ziming owed Ling Yunkong a favor, which was why he helped him. After saying that, Hai Ziming's figure moved, turned into a rainbow light, and disappeared in the air. What, you're still not leaving? Lu Ming looked at Ling Yunkong. Humph. Ling Yunkong waved his sleeves. He wanted to make trouble, but unfortunately he had already made a blood oath, so he could only grit his teeth and leave. He could not even order others to deal with the Shao family in the future. In an instant, no one from the Floating Mountain sect was left. Lu Ming came to the front of the Shao family. With a wave of his hand, his true origin gushed out. The true origin that sealed their cultivation was broken by Lu Ming one by one, and they regained their freedom. Thank you, young Master Lu. Thank you, young Master Lu, for saving our lives. Everyone from the Xiao family thanked Lu Ming profusely. This time, if it wasn't for Lu Ming, they would most likely be dead. Everyone, there's no need to be so polite. From now on, Ling Yunkong won't make things difficult for the Xiao family. You can call the rest of the Xiao family back. I'll go get Senior Xiao and the others, Lu Ming said. The Xiao family nodded and moved in groups. Lu Ming stepped into the air and flew towards the small island from before. Following Lu Ming's departure, the onlookers also dispersed. However, Lu Shaoqing's name had spread throughout Lishui City and was spreading in all directions at an alarming speed. He believed that it would not be long before it spread throughout the territory controlled by the floating mountain. Many people were curious about Lu Shaoqing. Who was he that suddenly appeared after the Battle of Providence? When Xiao Zhan, Ahui, and Ah Lei heard the specific news, they were overjoyed and were even more grateful to Lu Ming. Lu Ming had completely resolved this matter. They would not have to flee in the future. Everyone returned to the Xiao family. Xiao Zhan arranged for the Xiao family to begin rebuilding the Xiao residence. Because the Xiao family was affected by the battle, many buildings were destroyed. As for Lu Ming, he continued to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days passed. His water concept was slowly approaching the 3rd level of greater mastery. He was getting closer and closer to the other concepts. On this day, a piece of news spread rapidly in Lishui City. In the west of Lishui City, there was a black lake. There was actually a purifying lotus throne growing in the black lake. Now, the purifying lotus throne was about to mature. It's actually a purifying lotus throne. Let's go, we can't miss it. Let's go. As soon as the news spread, countless people moved towards the west of Lishui City. However, there were also many people who were smarter and did not go. How precious is the purifying lotus throne? It's extremely useful for cultivating water concept or water attribute cultivation methods. It can even allow one to break through bottlenecks. It will definitely attract many experts. Even old monsters who have been in seclusion for many years will appear. That's right. Although the purifying lotus throne is not very useful for 4th level concepts, it's quite helpful for 3rd level concepts, especially for 4th level concepts. When the time comes, there will be many experts. If we go, we'll just be sending ourselves to death. These people sneered and did not move. They waited in Lishui City for news. The purifying lotus throne. Lu Ming's eyes lit up when he heard the news. He must obtain the purifying lotus throne. As long as he obtained the purifying lotus throne, his water concept would make great progress in a short period of time. It might even surpass the other 4 concepts. In that case, his cultivation would begin to improve again. It had been more than half a year, but his cultivation had not improved. Now that the other prodigies who participated in the Battle of Providence were cultivating in seclusion and digesting their gains, their cultivation would definitely improve rapidly. Lu Ming speculated that the cultivation of Di Xin, Shui, Jenny, Ao2, and the others would definitely surpass his. Chapter 1010. Immediately, Lu Ming bid farewell to Xiao Zhan, Ahui, and Ah Lei. He had stayed long enough in the Xiao family and Lishui City. It was time for him to leave. Big Brother Lu, will you come to see us in the future? Ahui looked at Lu Ming reluctantly. Ah Lei didn't say anything, but her eyes were also reluctant to part. I will. When I have time, I will come to see you. You have to cultivate well. If there's anything, just send me a message. Lu Ming smiled and nodded at Xiao Zhan. Then he rose into the air and flew towards the Blackwater Lake. The Blackwater Lake was millions of miles west of Lishui City. The Blackwater Lake wasn't big, only about 100 miles in radius. When Lu Ming arrived, the Blackwater Lake was already surrounded by people. These people weren't just from Lishui City. They came from all over. There were men, women, old and young. Many of them had powerful auras and profound cultivations. That's Lu Shaoqing. Lu Ming's arrival caused a commotion. Some people recognized him. Many people looked at him with seriousness and vigilance. Lu Ming's battle strength was extremely terrifying. Even Hai Ziming wasn't his opponent. In the spirit embryo realm, there were few who could match him. This was a strong competitor. Lu Ming ignored everyone's gazes and looked towards the Blackwater Lake. The Blackwater Lake was just like its name. The lake water was black. It was said that the lake water was highly toxic. Even spirit embryo realm experts would be in great danger if they came in contact with it. In the middle of the Blackwater Lake, there was a green lotus platform. At this moment, it was emitting a strong medicinal fragrance. This was the purifying water lotus platform. However, it was obvious that it wasn't fully mature yet. The purifying water lotus platform was a special spirit medicine. If it wasn't fully mature, it wouldn't be a spirit medicine. Instead, it would be a highly toxic poison. Only when it was fully mature would it be a spirit medicine. It was extremely helpful for cultivating water attribute techniques and water concept. So many experts have come. It seems like we have no chance. Look, that's Lu Shaoqing. He's the genius who defeated Hai Ziming. His battle strength is extremely terrifying. There are also quite a few peak C of Soul's realm warriors. Ordinary warriors in the exceptional spiritual sea realm are nothing, but there are several old monsters among them. Around them, many people were discussing in low voices. Some of them were sighing, knowing that they had no hope. The so-called strong practitioners of the old monster level were the names given to those extremely terrifying existences in the spirit embryo realm. In the spirit embryo realm, there were a small number of people who had awakened the bloodline of a god, but were stuck in the spirit embryo realm, unable to break through to the spirit god realm. Furthermore, they had lived for a very long time and were extremely terrifying in all aspects. Only then were they called old monsters. These people were different from ordinary people with perfect spirit embryos. When they were young, they were all god-level geniuses. However, it was very difficult to break through to the spirit god realm. Many prodigies with bloodlines of the first and second level of the god realm would be stuck at the limit of the spirit embryo realm, unable to break through for the rest of their lives. These people were the most terrifying ones in the spirit embryo realm, and their battle prowess was extremely terrifying. Today, there were quite a few such people present. Furthermore, the number of people was still increasing. That's Yang Tsung, one of the top 10 geniuses of the Floating Mountain sect, and one of the top 10 geniuses, Wukong. Someone exclaimed as he looked at the sky. On the east and west sides, there was a young man walking over in the air. His aura was dignified, and his bearing was extraordinary. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. During this period of time, he had gained some understanding of the top 10 geniuses of the Floating Mountain sect. Yang Tsung was ranked 4th among the top 10 geniuses, while Wukong was ranked 6th. They were all extremely powerful geniuses. He didn't expect that the purifying lotus platform would attract all the geniuses of the Floating Mountain sect. The gazes of many of the old monsters turned serious. Geniuses like Yang Tsung and Wukong might not be as strong as them in terms of cultivation, but their battle prowess couldn't be judged by common sense at all. Everyone waited quietly, and more people came. Half a day later, the purifying lotus platform suddenly shone brightly, and a rich medicinal fragrance could be smelled even from 100 miles away. The purifying lotus platform has matured. The eyes of countless people burst forth with a blazing light. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In an instant, at least a few hundred people rushed towards the Blackwater Lake. Scram, the purifying lotus platform is mine. You're courting death, it's mine. The one who's going to die is you. Angry roars rang out, and all kinds of lights burst forth continuously. Miserable shrieks rang out continuously, and fresh blood dyed the Blackwater Lake red. Splash! Energy surged, and the water of the Blackwater Lake churned and splashed in all directions. Miserable shrieks rang out as some people were splashed by the water of the Blackwater Lake. Sizzling sounds could be heard as their bodies rapidly corroded. Not good. Be careful. This lake water is highly poisonous. Many people cried out in alarm as they circulated their vital essence to protect themselves. However, the lake water was incomparably poisonous, and when it splashed onto their vital essence, even their vital essence would be rapidly corroded. Get down! Angry roars rang out continuously as some people were struck into the lake and drowned by the water. Their protective vital essence was rapidly corroded, and in the end they let out miserable shrieks as their corpses disappeared without a trace. Many people were shocked and began to retreat, not daring to charge forward anymore. It was too dangerous. In just a short while, over 100 people had died, and they were all strong practitioners of the spirit embryo realm and above. Those practitioners of the spirit embryo realm and below didn't dare to charge forward. As long as they were splashed by a drop of the lake water, it would be a dead end. However, there were still many people who charged forward. They were all experts, and at a glance, almost all of them were strong practitioners of the 6th level of the spirit embryo realm and above. Suddenly, the lake water churned, and a few huge creatures appeared from the Blackwater Lake. They were huge black snakes with dense scales and cold gazes. They were extremely thick, and each of them had a diameter of over 10 meters. The huge black snakes churned, and the lake water churned violently, stirring up thousands of waves that swept towards many people. Instantly, many people were swept into the lake, and they let out miserable shrieks. Blackwater mystical snake, it's the Blackwater mystical snake. Someone cried out in alarm. Splash! The Blackwater mystical snake was originally a top-grade 7 demonic beast, and in the Blackwater Lake it was like a fish in water, terrifying beyond compare. In the Blackwater Lake, a total of 6 Blackwater mystical snakes appeared, protecting the purifying lotus platform in the middle. With a sweep of their tails, they brought up huge waves. No one dared to face them head-on, and they all dodged. Evil creature, you're courting death. A few white-haired old men unleashed beams of divine light to disperse the lake water and charged at the Blackwater mystical snake. It's the strong practitioners of the old monster level. Someone cried out. The few elders were extremely powerful, far surpassing normal spirit embryos. At the same time, everyone saw that Yang Tsung and Wukong were also incomparably powerful. They rushed forward with extreme speed and fought with the Blackwater mystical snake. There were also some strong practitioners of the 9th and 8th level of the spirit embryo realm, and they also rushed forward with all their might. On the Blackwater Lake, the battle continued, and it was chaos. Lu Ming blended into the crowd and rushed forward. He had the power of devouring, so he was not afraid of the poison in the lake water. However, he was not in a hurry to rush forward. Instead, he blended into the crowd and unleashed his power of devouring. Many experts were killed, and this was a huge resource. How could Lu Ming waste it? He clenched his fist, and a strong power of devouring exploded, enveloping those who were killed. Instantly, the billowing blood essence, vital essence, runes, and so on were all devoured by Lu Ming. Chapter 10:11. On the surface of the lake, the battle was intense. Even the Blackwater mystical snakes couldn't withstand the attacks of so many experts. Their huge bodies were covered in wounds. 2 of them were even killed, their huge corpses floating on the surface of the lake. The remaining Blackwater mystical snakes sank into the lake. The purifying lotus platform is mine. Once the Blackwater mystical snakes retreated, many people went crazy and rushed towards the purifying lotus platform. You want to get the purifying lotus platform? You're courting death. A blue-haired elder roared and grabbed several strong practitioners of the 8th and 9th level of spirit embryo realm. They were torn apart and killed on the spot. Too strong. This blue-haired elder's ability was far above normal perfected spirit embryos. He was a strong practitioner of the old monster level. In other directions, there were strong practitioners like him who rushed towards the purifying lotus platform with all their might. Among them, Yang Tsong and Wukong were also strong and invincible. They weren't any weaker than the old monsters. Swoosh! At this moment, Lu Ming also started to move. His body was like flowing light as he rushed towards the purifying lotus platform. His speed was so fast that he left many people behind. Stay here! Suddenly, two terrifying attacks flew towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming swept his gaze across and discovered that the ones attacking him were two elders. These two elders had perfected spirit embryos, but they were only ordinary perfected spirit embryos. You're courting death! Lu Ming shouted coldly. The devouring power in his left palm burst forth and enveloped the two elders. He pointed out two fingers with his right palm, and two spear lights appeared and pierced towards the two elders. Not good, retreat! Enveloped by the devouring power, the two elders felt that all the energy in their bodies was being devoured. They couldn't unleash their abilities at all. At the same time, the two spear lights were extremely terrifying, threatening their lives. The two of them roared angrily, their eyes flashing with incomparable shock. They knew that they had encountered a terrifying prodigy, but it was too late to retreat now. The two spear lights were in front of their eyes in an instant. "Spare us!" the two of them shouted, but in the next moment, the spear lights pierced through the heart of their brows. The devouring power burst forth and devoured all the essence of the two elders. Normal perfected spirit embryos could be killed by Lu Ming with a flip of his hand. Whoosh! Lu Ming's figure moved, rushing forward at an extremely fast speed. Soon he was at the forefront. Die! A cold roar rang out, and a terrifying claw light enveloped Lu Ming. Without hesitation, Lu Ming struck out with his palm. Bang! His palm struck a blue claw. His body only swayed slightly, but his opponent was forced back by his attack. Lu Ming took a look and saw that it was the blue-haired old man, an old monster-level expert. At this time, the old man looked at Lu Ming with a solemn expression. The old man didn't expect a young man to be so powerful. Lu Ming glanced at him and did not continue to attack. Instead, he rushed towards the purifying lotus platform. There were already people approaching from several other directions. The blue-haired old man's expression changed, but he didn't continue to attack. Instead, he rushed towards the purifying lotus platform. A blue, godly eagle appeared above his head along with a golden chakra. He executed the bloodline fusion and turned into a blue godly eagle as he pounced towards the purifying water lotus platform. There were a total of 7 figures approaching the purifying water lotus platform from all directions. Yang Tsong, Wukong, Lu Ming, and 4 other old men. The 7 of them were the fastest, approaching the purifying water lotus platform. Get lost! You're the one who should get lost. Die! The 7 of them looked at each other, and a great battle broke out. Terrifying attacks poured towards each other, and a chaotic battle broke out. However, everyone intentionally avoided the purifying water lotus platform, and their attacks didn't land on it. Boom! Boom! Explosions continued, and all kinds of light scattered. Whoosh! A blue, godly eagle pounced towards Lu Ming, and the wind was terrifying. It was the blue-haired old man again. Old man, you're courting death. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold, and a 5-colored light burst out. He activated the suppressing Hell Heaven skill and struck out with his palm. Bang! The palm struck the blue, godly eagle, and the eagle's claws were shattered into pieces. A terrifying force rushed out, and the blue, godly eagle collapsed. The blue-haired old man's figure reappeared, and blood spurted out of his mouth. He retreated rapidly, and his eyes were filled with fear. Then, a terrifying devouring force shrouded him. Lu Ming took a step forward, and appeared in front of the blue-haired old man and struck out with his palm. "Wait, spare me!" The blue-haired old man screamed in fear, but Lu Ming's palm didn't stop and struck down with force. Crack! A big hole appeared in the blue-haired old man's body and blood flowed out. However, he wasn't dead yet, and he wanted to escape. Now he couldn't care less about the purifying water lotus platform. He only wanted to escape and run for his life. But how could Lu Ming let him escape? Bang! He took a step forward, and the power of the 9 dragons' air steps exploded. The blue-haired old man screamed in pain, and his body was torn apart. Then all the essence of the blue-haired old man was devoured by Lu Ming. The blue-haired old man had only awakened a level 1 divine bloodline. How could he be Lu Ming's match? Even if his cultivation was 2 levels higher than Lu Ming, he was still easily killed. At the back, the other people who were chasing after him were shocked. Lu Ming was too terrifying. An old monster-level expert was killed just like that. They looked at Lu Ming with fear in their eyes. At this moment, the battle for the purifying water lotus platform was still going on fiercely. Yang Tsung and Wukong joined forces to fight against the 3 old monsters, and the 3 old monsters were at a disadvantage. Swoosh! Lu Ming took a step forward and approached the purifying water lotus platform. Lu Shaoqing! Yang Tsung swept a glance at Lu Ming with a hint of seriousness. Obviously, he already knew that Lu Ming had defeated Hai Ziming. Hai Ziming's strength wasn't weaker than his. He wasn't confident that Lu Ming could defeat Hai Ziming. Lu Ming glanced at the crowd indifferently. He took a step forward and reached out his hand to grab the purifying water lotus platform. Don't even think about it. Wukong's cold light flashed as the long spear in his hand pierced towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming struck out with his palm. Wukong's body shook as he retreated. Boom! Then Lu Ming threw out a punch, and an old monster spat out blood and retreated. Hiss! Many people gasped. Lu Ming was too strong. Wukong, an old monster-level expert, was easily injured by Lu Ming. No one could stop him. You better not have a death wish. Lu Ming swept his gaze across them. The few old monsters, as well as Yang Tsung and Wukong, had ugly expressions. Lu Shaoqing, although you're strong, there are so many of us here. We're not afraid of you, Wukong said. At this moment, many experts had appeared from all directions. However, they watched from afar and didn't dare to get close. You can try, Lu Ming said coldly. Yang Tsung, Wukong, I suggest that we join forces. After defeating this person, we can seize the purifying water lotus platform with our own strength. Otherwise, if the purifying water lotus platform is taken by this person, we won't get anything. An old monster said, All right, I agree. Wukong nodded. Yang Tsung frowned. He didn't want to offend a genius like Lu Ming unless it was necessary. Yang Tsung, what about you? Chapter 10-12. Yang Tsung muttered to himself and actually took a few steps back. Although the purifying lotus platform is precious, it isn't of much use to me. I won't fight for this lotus platform. All right, that's what you said. Wukong's eyes lit up. Yang Tsung was a powerful opponent. If he retreated now, they would have one less powerful opponent after defeating Lu Ming. In Wukong's heart, the biggest opponent here was Lu Ming, followed by Yang Kong. As for the other old monsters, Wukong wasn't afraid of them. The old monsters' eyes also lit up as they looked at Lu Ming. Now, they just had to deal with Lu Ming. Boom! 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 A violent aura rose up. Above Wukong and the other 3 old monsters, resplendent light appeared as all kinds of bloodlines appeared. Among the 3 old monsters, 2 of them had the bloodline of the 2nd level of the god level, and 1 had the bloodline of the 1st level of the god level. All of them had the cultivation of the peak of perfection of the spirit embryo. As for Wukong, he had the bloodline of the 6th level of the god level, and his cultivation was at the late stage of the 8th level of the spirit embryo. However, his aura was stronger than any of the old monsters. Almost at the same time, the four of them executed the fusion of bloodlines and attacked Lu Ming. Roar! A dragon's roar came from Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming exploded with a dragon's power, and a layer of purple light spread out on the surface of his body. With the explosion of the dragon's power, Lu Ming stepped out and threw out a few punches. Boom! 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 The space trembled as the terrifying fist energy attacked the four of them. The three old monsters were forced back. Only Wukong was slightly better, but he was also forced back. 5-colored light covered his fists as he executed the suppressing Hell Heaven technique. With the increase of the concept of water, the 5 types of concepts exploded at the same time and the power became stronger. With a punch, it seemed like it could destroy everything. Fight, fight! Lu Ming roared as his battle intent burst forth. Light shone as though he was a young war god. He moved unhindered as his fists shook the sky. With his strength alone, he suppressed the four of them. The space rumbled as dozens of loud sounds rang out. Not far away, Yang Tsung was extremely shocked. Then he smiled bitterly, as expected of someone who could defeat Hai Ziming. He was no match for him. Further away, the others were even more shocked. Lu Ming was able to suppress the 4 experts by himself. After all, in the eyes of ordinary people, experts at the level of old freaks were practically invincible existences in the spirit embryo realm. They'd awakened their god bloodlines, yet were unable to step into the domain enlightened spirit god realm, and they'd cultivated for at least 1,000 years. Some had even cultivated for 2,000 to 3,000 years. So how terrifying was this? Furthermore, there was also the monstrous prodigy, Wukong. The 4 of them joined forces, but they were still no match for Lu Ming. After dozens of moves, Wukong and the other 3 finally could not hold on any longer. Under the pressure of Lu Ming's terrifying fist force, they all reverted to their human forms. Their bodies undulated and their breaths were weak. They were more or less injured. At this moment, the 4 of them were incomparably shocked. They looked at Lu Ming in disbelief. A 3rd-class genius, Lu Shaoqing has definitely reached the combat strength of a 3rd-class genius. That's right. Even some of the weaker 3rd-class geniuses might not have such combat strength. 3rd-class geniuses, they're the top group of people in the central continent. There are only 3 of them in the floating mountain. There were waves of discussions in the surroundings. No one dared to step forward, even if the purifying lotus platform was right in front of them. Ordinary, perfected spirit embryos could be killed by Lu Ming's combat strength with a flip of his hand. Who dared to step forward? Lu Ming glanced at everyone, then stepped forward and walked towards the purifying lotus platform. Wukong and the other old freaks did not move, although they were unwilling. They knew that this time, the purifying lotus platform belonged to Lu Ming. No one could compete with Lu Ming. Splash! At this moment, the lake water churned, and a huge creature suddenly appeared. It swallowed the purifying lotus platform into its mouth and then dived into the water. It was a huge snake, the black water serpent. No, it was not a black water serpent. It was even bigger and had an even more shocking aura. It was the king of the black water serpents, the black water king snake. You're courting death. Lu Ming shouted coldly and stepped forward. The 9 dragons' heaven-trampling steps was unleashed, and a terrifying force blasted into the Blackwater Lake. Rumble! The entire Blackwater Lake shook, and huge waves surged into the sky. Ah, this is bad. Lu Shaoqing has gone crazy. Go, go! Retreat! The strong practitioners around them flew into the sky in fear, and then to the shore of the lake. The lake water churned, and huge waves surged into the sky. Under the terrifying force, the black water king snake's figure appeared and disappeared. Lu Ming waved his hand, and hundreds of spears condensed in the air and shot into the lake. The black water king snake hissed angrily and rushed out of the Blackwater Lake, flying towards the shore. It's not the Blackwater king snake, it's a human. Lu Ming's gaze turned cold. This black water king snake was not the real black water king snake. It was a human with the bloodline of the black water king snake and had used bloodline fusion. This person was very scheming. His bloodline was the black water king snake, so he was not afraid of the Blackwater Lake's poison. He had already dived to the bottom of the lake and waited for an opportunity to seize the purifying lotus throne. But how could Lu Ming let this person escape so easily? He took a step forward and chased after the black water king snake like a ray of light. Just as the black water king snake was about to escape the Blackwater Lake, a white blade light slashed towards the black water king snake. This blade light was extremely terrifying and emitted a bone-chilling cold. The black water king snake was shocked. Its huge snake body curled up and transformed back into a human. This was an old man with almost all his hair falling out. His eyes were sinister as he avoided the blade light and wanted to escape from the other side. But at this moment, Lu Ming had already arrived. He punched out, and the fist light enveloped the old man. The old man's body shook violently and was stopped. "Old black water!" Someone exclaimed as they recognized this old man. This old man's bloodline was actually at the 3rd level of the divine realm, but for some reason he did not break through to the spiritual god realm. However, his combat strength was extremely powerful, and he was very famous in the floating mountain region. Whoosh! At this moment, the temperature in the surroundings dropped rapidly. Many people looked around and their eyes widened. It turned out that the blade light didn't hit old monster Blackwater. Instead, it landed on the Blackwater Lake. At this moment, the entire Blackwater Lake was frozen, turning into an ice lake. A tall and burly young man stepped on the air and appeared on the other side of the Blackwater king snake. He and Lu Ming stood on both sides of the Blackwater king snake, surrounding the Blackwater king snake. "Chu Kuang! It's Chu Kuang!" Someone exclaimed. "Chu Kuang is here too. This is going to be interesting." Could it be that Chu Kuang is also interested in the purifying lotus seed? Many people were shocked, but their eyes were also shining. Chu Kuang, who was ranked 2nd among the 10 sky prides of the floating mountain, had appeared. Chu Kuang was tall and burly. He was dressed casually and carried a battle blade on his back. His gaze skipped the black water king snake and landed on Lu Ming. "You're Lu Shaoqing?" Chu Kuang asked. "That's right," Lu Ming nodded. "I heard that you defeated Ling Yunkong and Hai Ziming?" Chu Kuang asked again. Chapter 10:13. Ha ha ha. Chu Kuang suddenly burst into laughter and said, "Stand up for them? How is that possible? If someone like Ling Yunkong were to do evil in the name of the Floating Mountain sect, I'd cut him down with my saber." Lu Ming's eyes moved, but he didn't say anything. He had heard of Chu Kuang before. He was ranked 2nd among the top 10 prodigies of Floating Mountain. He was extremely powerful and talented. At the same time, he was wild and liked to make friends. He didn't seem like someone like Ling Yunkong could be compared to. "I'm just passing by today. I didn't expect to encounter such an interesting event. I love to find experts to spar with. Lu Shaoqing, why don't you accompany me? Let's use this purifying lotus platform as the wager. If you win, you can have the purifying lotus platform. If I win, the purifying lotus platform is mine." Chu Kuang looked at Lu Ming. He still did not look at old monster Blackwater. "All right." Lu Ming nodded and agreed without hesitation. Chu Kuang was obviously a battle-hungry person. Lu Ming knew that avoiding a battle was useless against such a person. As long as he was stronger, Chu Kuang would be convinced. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming and Chu Kuang's aura burst out as they faced each other. Early stage of spirit embryo, 9th level. Powerful indeed. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. Chu Kuang's cultivation had already reached the early stage of the 9th level of the spirit embryo realm, which was higher than that of the Emperor God during the War of Providence. Of course, having a high cultivation did not mean that his combat power was stronger than that of the Emperor God. Damn it! Old monster Blackwater, was sandwiched between the two of them. His face turned ugly. The two of them wanted to fight and completely ignored him. At this moment, he gritted his teeth and rushed to the side, wanting to take the opportunity to escape. At this moment, Lu Ming and Chu Kuang moved and attacked Old Monster Blackwater. A terrifying force enveloped Old Monster Blackwater, causing his face to turn pale. Old Monster Blackwater used all his strength to attack, but the force from Lu Ming and Chu Kuang landed on his body, causing him to tremble violently. Lu Ming and Chu Kuang were fighting with Old Monster Blackwater between them. No matter how powerful Old Monster Blackwater was, he had awakened a level 3 divine level bloodline and had cultivated for thousands of years. However, he was still in a miserable state in the fight between Lu Ming and Chu Kuang. He could not charge forward at all. Instead, he was sent flying and spurting blood from his mouth. Boom! 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 Lu Ming's fists continued to attack. Streams of fist gleams blasted forward like meteors. On the other hand, Chu Kuang's palms continued to slash out. Streams of bone-chilling saber gleams slashed out violently. The pitiful Old Monster Blackwater was stuck in the middle, trying his best to defend himself. The onlookers looked at each other, sympathized with Old Monster. Ah, I don't want the purifying Lotus platform anymore. Old Monster Blackwater took the purifying Lotus. Lu Ming and Chu Kuang purposely avoided the purifying Lotus platform. Old Monster Blackwater also took the opportunity to dash out of the encirclement. He ran far away and looked at the field with lingering fear. Haha, with one less hindrance, I can fight with all my strength. Chu Kuang laughed and unsheathed his battle saber. An even colder saber light was sent out. Great! Lu Ming's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. He stepped forward and increased the power of the suppressing Hell Heaven art to fight with Chu Kuang. No one dared to touch the purifying Lotus. Everyone knew that if anyone dared to take the opportunity to take the purifying Lotus, they would end up like Old Monster Blackwater. They didn't have the confidence to survive the battle between the two prodigies. In the blink of an eye, the two had exchanged dozens of blows. Chu Kuang was strong. He was in the early stage of the 9th tier of Spirit Embryo Realm. The bloodline he had awakened was definitely not weak. Lu Ming had a feeling that Chu Kuang was a sky pride of the same level as Shuet Jinny and Ao Tuesday. If they fought at the same level, he would not be any weaker than them. His combat strength was extremely terrifying. Whoosh! Chu Kuang slashed out with his battle saber. A white ice crystal appeared in the air, and the ice on the Blackwater lake became thicker. He has cultivated the ice concept to such a level. No, there is also the water concept. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Obviously, Chu Kuang had merged the ice concept with the water concept. His power had increased exponentially. Roar! A dragon's roar was heard. 2 more dragon energies erupted from Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's strength increased greatly. He walked out and punched out. The punch shattered Chu Kuang's saber light, and the sky was filled with ice shards. Chu Kuang's eyes turned serious. An ice river appeared above his head. 7 chakras shone on the ice river. He had awakened a 7th divine bloodline. As soon as the ice river appeared, the air became even colder. Hundreds of miles were shrouded in the cold air. Many people retreated. If they were shrouded in the cold air, even their true yuan would be frozen. However, when Chu Kuang's bloodline appeared, he did not perform the bloodline integration. Instead, with a flash of his eyes, the bloodline disappeared into his body again. He retreated hurriedly, dodging Lu Ming's fist gleams. He shouted, "Stop, stop! Don't fight anymore, don't fight anymore!" Lu Ming was stunned and stopped. The crowd was also stunned. Chu Kuang hadn't used his full strength yet. Why did he stop and admit defeat? Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. Chu Kuang was a straightforward person. He probably felt that even if he merged the bloodlines, he wasn't confident. Lu Shaoqing, I admire you. This purifying lotus platform is yours. Chu Kuang put his battle saber back into the scabbard on his back and grinned. Lu Ming stretched out his hand and sucked the purifying lotus platform into his hand. He then kept it in his storage ring. Many people were envious, especially the seniors who were stuck in the perfected spirit embryo realm. However, they didn't dare to make a move in front of an expert like Lu Ming. Thank you. Lu Ming kept the purifying lotus platform. He was in a good mood and cupped his fists at Chu Kuang. Haha, you're welcome. I'm no match for you. Of course. This purifying lotus platform is yours. Lu Shaoqing, it's a pity that I can't see you in the battle of destiny. How about it? If you think highly of me, let's be friends. I'll treat you to a drink. Chu Kuang laughed. He was very forthright. Lu Ming nodded in his heart. Chu Kuang was indeed as bold and unrestrained as the rumors said. He liked to make friends. Ling Yunkong couldn't be compared to him at all. Since Brother Chu invited me, I'll naturally give you face. Unfortunately, I need to find a place to cultivate in seclusion. I'm afraid we can't have a drink together. Lu Ming said. Chu Kuang nodded and said, I understand. How about this? I'll be in Sunset Moon City for the next few days. If Brother Lu finishes his seclusion in 10 days, you can come to Sunset Moon City to find me. There's a grand event happening recently. I'll go with Brother Lu to take a look. After saying that, Chu Kuang turned around and left. Looking at Chu Kuang's back, Lu Ming thought of Yan Kuangtu. Their personalities were very similar. They were both bold and unrestrained. However, Yan Kuangtu was more arrogant, unrestrained, and daring. He was more arrogant than Chu Kuang and didn't give face to anyone. In comparison, he had fewer friends. Chapter 10:14. Hundreds of thousands of miles later, Lu Ming appeared at the bottom of a small lake. He then entered the mountain-river diagram and sat cross-legged on a mountain peak. He began to refine the essence, blood, and concept runes that he had devoured previously. This time, Lu Ming had devoured hundreds of experts at the spirit embryo realm and above. Among them, there was no lack of people at the 8th or 9th level of the spirit embryo realm. There were even people at the perfected spirit embryo realm. Furthermore, many of them cultivated the concept of water. So many concept runes were continuously refined and merged into Lu Ming's own concept of water runes. His concept of water quickly rose. In just a few hours, Lu Ming's concept of water had broken through to the upper 3rd level and continued to rise. Early 3rd level, middle 3rd level, late 3rd level. When all the concept runes were refined, Lu Ming's concept of water rose to the late 3rd level. When Lu Ming's concept of water rose to the late 3rd level, the spirit embryo in Lu Ming's dantian finally exploded with a strong suction force. The energy that had been devoured seemed to have found an outlet and was crazily converted into vital essence, raising Lu Ming's cultivation. Lu Ming's cultivation, which had stagnated for more than half a year, also began to rise rapidly. Early 8th level of the spirit embryo realm, middle 8th level of the spirit embryo realm. When everyone's energy was completely refined, Lu Ming's cultivation rose to the peak of the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm. However, his bloodline did not rise. All the essence blood had been used to raise the 9 dragons' bloodline. Clearly, it was still not enough. After refining all the energy, Lu Ming opened his eyes. At the same time, a lotus platform appeared in his hand. There were 81 petals on the lotus throne, and each petal was filled with dense water concept and water spirit chi. Lu Ming planned to use the purifying lotus platform to raise his concept of water. First, he plucked 3 petals and swallowed them. After refining the petals, they melted in his mouth. There was a cool feeling that flowed down his throat and turned into a cool energy that spread throughout Lu Ming's body. At this moment, Lu Ming seemed to be immersed in endless water vapor. He could clearly sense the concept of water. Lu Ming closed his eyes and continued to cultivate. When the energy of the 3 petals disappeared, Lu Ming continued to pluck 3 more petals and swallowed them. Lu Ming's concept of water started rising rapidly again. After refining the 27th petal, his water concept broke through to the perfection of the 3rd level in one go. It stood side by side with the wind, fire, and lightning concepts, and was slightly higher than the earth concept. The concept of earth was only at the peak of level 3 greater mastery. He was still a step away from level 3 perfection. This was not the end. Lu Ming continued to refine the remaining petals. He was charging towards the 4th level of water concept. The pure water lotus throne was extremely useful for 3rd level concepts, as well as 3rd level concepts breaking into 4th level concepts. This wasn't just a saying, it truly had a miraculous effect. Moreover, how terrifying was Lu Ming's current comprehension ability? So when he refined all the petals, Lu Ming actually really broke through the bottleneck in one go and broke through to the 4th level of water concept. Water concept was the last concept that Lu Ming comprehended, yet he never imagined that he would be the first to break through to the 4th level. Lu Ming opened his eyes and revealed a delighted expression. Being able to break through to the 4th level had exceeded his expectations as well. He originally didn't have any hope of successfully breaking through. After all, the 4th level of concept was the last concept. It was extremely difficult to break through. Many figures of the older generation were stuck at this step and were unable to break through for their entire lifetimes. Lu Ming never imagined that he would break through in one go this time. Lu Ming reckoned that this was greatly related to the enormous karmic luck he possessed that allowed his comprehension ability to increase tenfold. Otherwise, it would absolutely be impossible for him to break through to the 4th level so easily, even if he possessed a treasure like the pure water lotus throne. Of course, the barrier of the spirit god realm wasn't as simple as concept. Some people couldn't break through to the spirit god realm even after breaking through to the 4th level of concept. Of course, Lu Ming was still a distance away from breaking through to the spirit god realm, so there was no need to consider it for the time being. 10 days have already passed. It's time to go out. Next, I'll travel and cultivate while heading to the ancient Saint dynasty. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. This was his current plan. His cultivation was still weak at the moment. Even if he arrived at the ancient Saint dynasty, he didn't have the strength to take Xia Nianqing away. He planned to travel while risking his life to cultivate and raise his strength. After exiting the mountain-river diagram, Lu Ming soared into the sky and headed towards the west. Lu Ming's speed wasn't very fast, but after a day he still traversed a distance of several million miles. A large city appeared in front of him. On the city gate, there were 3 large words, Sunset Moon City. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. What a coincidence! Previously, Chu Kuang said that if Lu Ming ended his seclusion 10 days later, he could come to the Howling Moon Inn in Sunset Moon City to have a drink with him. Previously, Lu Ming didn't take it to heart. He didn't expect that he would still come to Sunset Moon City. Since I'm here, I'll go take a look at the Howling Moon Inn. Chu Kuang said that there's a grand event happening soon. I wonder what it is. Lu Ming smiled and walked into Sunset Moon City. Sunset Moon City was huge, twice the size of Lishui City. Howling Moon Inn was extremely famous in Sunset Moon City. That was because Howling Moon Inn was the largest inn in Sunset Moon City. After asking a random person, Lu Ming knew where Howling Moon Inn was. After turning a few streets, a 5-story inn appeared before his eyes. Sir, are you here for a drink? Even in the entire floating mountain range, the wines of our store are among the best. The moment Lu Ming entered the inn, a waiter came up to him. I'm here to look for someone, Lu Ming said. Oh, who are you looking for? I have some impression of anyone who enters our inn to drink, the waiter replied. Chu Kuang, Lu Ming said. So you're the guest that young Master Chu Kuang is waiting for. Young Master Chu Kuang is in a private room on the 5th floor and has already been drinking here for 3 days. He said that a friend will come to look for him in a few days. It must be you, young master. Please follow me, the waiter said. Lu Ming's heart moved. He didn't expect that Chu Kuang was really waiting for him here, and even waited for 3 days. People said that Chu Kuang liked to make friends. It seemed that it wasn't an exaggeration at all. Following the waiter, they arrived in front of a private room on the 5th floor. Before the waiter could announce, a loud laugh came from the private room. Ha ha ha! I sensed your aura the moment Brother Lu came. Creak! The door of the private room opened. Chu Kuang walked out with a smile on his face. The waiter also retreated. Brother Chu, were you waiting for me? Lu Ming asked. That's right. Since I said that I wanted to be friends with you, I naturally had to wait here for you. However, I originally planned to wait for a day at most. If you didn't come, I would have left. Fortunately, you came. It seems that Brother Lu still recognizes me. Haha. Chu Kuang laughed heartily. Lu Ming secretly felt ashamed. He didn't plan to come, but he just happened to pass by Sunset Moon City, so he came to take a look. Brother Lu, please. The wine is ready. Chu Kuang waved his hand. Lu Ming and Chu Kuang walked into the private room, one after the other. In the corner of the private room, there were already several empty jars. It was obvious that Chu Kuang had drunk a lot of wine these days. Haha, Brother Lu, you must be joking. I'm a wine addict. I come here every once in a while to drink the wine of Howling Moon House. Chu Kuang laughed. Chapter 10:15. Lu Ming opened the lid of a jar of wine and took a big gulp. He could feel the fragrance lingering in his mouth and could not help praising, "Good wine!" Chu Kuang also picked up the jar and took a big gulp. Then he looked at Lu Ming and said, Brother Lu, you didn't use your full strength in the battle that day, right? Why do you think so? Lu Ming smiled and did not answer directly. It's just a feeling. Chu Kuang said, I have a feeling that if I continue to fight, I would definitely lose, and I would lose miserably. So I admitted defeat to avoid embarrassment. Haha. Lu Ming smiled faintly, declining to comment. Of course. He did not use his full strength at that time. Brother Lu, you're not from the Central Continent, are you? Chu Kuang suddenly asked. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. His eyes flashed and he said, Why do you think so? I'm just guessing. Every time there's a battle of Providence, all the heroes in the world will take part. They won't miss this opportunity. However, I've never seen someone as talented as Brother Lu in a battle of Providence. I'm just curious. So I'm guessing that Brother Lu might be a peerless genius from the Eastern Wilderness, Northern Plains, Southern Ming, or other places. Chu Kuang laughed. Brother Chu, you think too much. I've been cultivating in the mountains before, so I missed the battle of fate. Lu Ming said. Haha, Brother Lu, you don't need to think too much. I was just casually asking. I like to make friends with all the heroes in the world, especially heroes like Brother Lu. No matter where Brother Lu is from, this Chu is determined to make friends with you. Please, Chu Kuang said as he lifted the jar of wine. Lu Ming also lifted the jar of wine and took a big gulp. Chu Kuang's words seemed to be true. He was just asking casually. That was indeed the case. The Battle of Providence had already ended. Yet such a prodigy had suddenly appeared. Everyone would be curious. However, Lu Ming was not very worried, because his second body was in the Liangyi Mountain and would occasionally appear during this period. Martial Emperor Di would not suspect that Lu Ming would appear in the Central Continent. After all, the twin life forbidden technique was simply too unimaginable. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it either. Moreover, Lu Ming didn't show any of his iconic bloodlines in the Middle Continent, nor did he show any sign of the dragon bloodline eruption. No one would suspect that he was Lu Ming from the Eastern Wilderness. The two drank wine and chatted casually. Lu Ming also took the opportunity to ask Chu Kuang about the specific situation of the major forces in the Central Continent. There were a total of 18 overlords in the Central Continent. There were both humans and demons. They occupied the vast eastern wasteland. Every overlord force had a ruler overseeing it, and they were incomparably powerful. Beneath the 18 overlord forces, there were many other powerful forces. In fact, some of them were so powerful that they even had supreme beings holding down the fort. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. The central continent was indeed powerful, and the eastern wilderness could not be compared to it. He wondered how powerful the central continent ancient sage dynasty was when it was at its peak. Brother Lu, in my opinion, you have a great chance of becoming a second-class prodigy. Chu Kuang exclaimed, second-class genius. Lu Ming was a little surprised. Oh, Brother Lu, you don't know about this division? In the central continent, the top prodigies are divided into 3 classes. For example, I'm a third-class prodigy. In the Floating Mountain sect, there are only 3 prodigies above the third class. The others, like Yang Tsong and Hai Ziming, who you've met before, aren't even in the third class. Chu Kuang explained. Brother Chu, you're only a third-class genius? Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Chu Kuang's talent was definitely not inferior to Shui, Jinni, and Ao2's, but he was only a third-class genius. How terrifying would a second-class or even first-class genius be? That's right, I'm only a third-tier prodigy. As for the Hanging Mountain, only the number 1 prodigy of the younger generation can be considered a second-tier prodigy. However, there aren't many second-tier prodigies in the central continent. Chu Kuang said. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. If Chu Kuang was only a third-class genius, then second-class geniuses must be stronger and more talented. Lu Ming guessed that second-class geniuses were probably at the level of Emperor God. If they were really at the level of Emperor Gods, there were actually more than 20 of them. That was terrifying. Emperor God was said to be able to inherit the legacy of martial Emperor De. He was a rare genius in the entire history of the Eastern continent. There were more than 20 such geniuses in the central continent. What about the first-class geniuses? As if he could read Lu Ming's mind, Chu Kuang continued, above the second-class prodigies are the first-class prodigies. However, there are fewer of them, only 5 of them. They are known as the 5 young giants. Each of them is a figure who suppressed an era. They are extremely terrifying, peerless, and extremely powerful. Chu Kuang's eyes were filled with awe and fear as he spoke. Obviously, the top 5 young geniuses were extremely important to him. The top 5 young geniuses. Lu Ming's eyes lit up and a strong battle intent flashed past. Although the geniuses at the level of Emperor God were also extremely powerful, and each of them had the potential to become an emperor in the future, they were all incredible existences. However, Lu Ming did not feel too pressured because he had fought with Emperor God before. Although Emperor God was extremely terrifying, Lu Ming was confident that he could suppress Emperor God again in the future. However, the geniuses at the level of Emperor God were terrifying. Lu Ming could not imagine how powerful they were. However, this made Lu Ming even more excited. Lu Ming was not afraid of having opponents. He was only afraid of having no opponents. Only when there were opponents would there be pressure and motivation. The central continent was indeed more brilliant than the eastern continent. The clash of geniuses was also more intense. The battle of providence in the central continent must be extremely intense. Unfortunately, I'm not in the central continent. Lu Ming felt that it was a pity. Brother Lu, do you remember when I said that there would be a grand event in the near future? 10 days later, 2 second-class geniuses will fight at Pillar of Heaven's Mountain. It will definitely attract a lot of attention. After the Battle of Providence, many geniuses who have been cultivating in seclusion may reappear. Chu Kuang said. There was a flash in Lu Ming's eyes. There was a look of anticipation. He speculated that the second-class geniuses were at the level of Emperor God. A battle between 2 such geniuses was indeed a grand event. It was absolutely rare, and Lu Ming did not want to miss it. It was a good opportunity to see how powerful the top geniuses in the central continent were. Why are 2 such geniuses fighting? Lu Ming asked curiously. One of them is Sanguinarum from Cold Blood Hall, and the other is Ian Bupo from Sky Eagle Fort. Both of them are the strongest in the younger generation of their respective forces. These two forces have a grudge against each other. Therefore, it's normal for them to be at odds with each other. The two of them exchanged thousands of blows in the Battle of Providence, but were unable to determine the winner. Therefore, they agreed to fight again in 10 days. Chu Kuang explained. Lu Ming nodded. I see. Brother Chu, when are we leaving? Lu Ming asked. We'll leave immediately. However, before going to Pillar of Heaven's Mountain, I need to return to Floating Mountain. Brother Lu, do you dare to come with me? Chu Kuang said. Why not? Chapter 1016. The Floating Mountain sect was one of the overlords of the Central Continent. Naturally, it was extraordinary. However, Lu Ming was still stunned when he saw it. In front of them was a boundless body of water. Above the boundless body of water, there was an incomparably huge mountain floating in the air. This huge mountain was so huge that one couldn't see the end of it. It was like a mountain where the ancient gods lived. It was floating 1,000 meters in the air. The floating mountain was like its name. It was really a mountain that floated in the air. Looking from afar, the floating mountain was filled with clouds and water vapor. Under the sunlight, rainbows hung in the air. At a glance, there were countless rainbows. It was incomparably dazzling. It was like a paradise on earth. What a great floating mountain! Lu Ming couldn't help but exclaim, "Haha, let's go." Chu Kuang laughed and flew towards the floating mountain with Lu Ming. With Chu Kuang leading the way, they naturally entered the floating mountain without any obstructions. Lu Shaoqing. At this moment, an incredulous voice sounded. Lu Ming turned his head and couldn't help but find it funny. Isn't that Ling Yunkong? Lu Shaoqing, you actually dare to come to the floating mountain? Ling Yunkong's eyes widened. After a while, he turned his gaze and saw Chu Kuang. His expression changed drastically. What? Brother Lu is my friend. Do you have a problem with him? I've heard some things about you from Brother Lu. Chu Kuang looked at Ling Yunkong and licked his lips. His eyes flashed fiercely. Ling Yunkong's expression changed again. His face turned pale. He hurriedly said, No, Lu Shaoqing is your friend. How would I dare to have a problem with him? No problem at all. When Ling Yunkong saw Chu Kuang, he was like a mouse that saw a cat. He was scared to death. Humph, you better not do evil in the name of the Floating Mountain sect in the future. Also, if you dare to touch Brother Lu's friend again, I'll cut you with my saber. Chu Kuang's eyes flashed fiercely as he looked at Ling Yunkong. I wouldn't dare. I definitely wouldn't dare. Ling Yunkong was covered in cold sweat. He nodded repeatedly. Scram! Chu Kuang coldly shouted. Ling Yunkong hurriedly ran away in fear. Ling Yunkong seems to be afraid of you. Lu Ming said. I've taught him a lesson a few times in the past. Also, there was another genius who was similar to Ling Yunkong. The two of them were always running amok. One of them was killed by me. He was afraid that I would kill him too. Chu Kuang laughed. Lu Ming nodded. This Ling Yunkong was scared to death of Chu Kuang. Chu Kuang's talent was far greater than Ling Yunkong's. Even if he killed Ling Yunkong, the upper echelons of the Hanging Mountain wouldn't stand up for him. The floating mountain was extremely large. The two of them flew for hundreds of thousands of miles before arriving at a cliff. There was a courtyard at the edge of the cliff. Wenjing, I'm here. Chu Kuang shouted as they arrived at the courtyard. Not long after, the door to the courtyard opened and a young woman walked out. The young woman had a graceful figure and snow-white skin. She wore a light yellow dress and was extremely beautiful. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The number 3 genius of the Floating Sky Mountain was called Zhang Wenjing. Could it be this girl? The Floating Mountain sect had 3 third-class geniuses and above, and Zhang Wenjing was one of them. Big Brother Chu, you're here. You're late by 2 days. The young woman said, Haha, Wenjing, don't blame me. I made a new friend and drank with him for 2 days, so I rushed over. Chu Kuang laughed and continued to introduce. Wenjing, this is Brother Lu Shaoqing. Brother Lu, this is my junior sister, Zhang Wenjing. Chu Kuang said, You're Lu Shaoqing? Before Lu Ming could speak, Zhang Wenjing spoke first. She looked curiously at Lu Ming. Miss Wenjing, have you heard of my name? Lu Ming asked. Of course I have. You suppressed Ling Yunkong and defeated Hai Ziming. The news has spread all over the Floating Sky Mountain. How could I not know? Zhang Wenjing smiled faintly. Haha, I believe Brother Lu's name will spread all over the central continent soon. Chu Kuang laughed. Zhang Wenjing's eyes flickered and she was slightly surprised. It seemed like Chu Kuang thought highly of Lu Shaoqing. Obviously, Zhang Wenjing hadn't heard of the Purifying Lotus platform battle. If she had, she wouldn't be so surprised. Wenjing, let's go to Pillar of Heaven's Mountain. Chu Kuang said. This place was quite far from Heavenly Jewel Mountain. They had to set off as soon as possible. Zhang Wenjing nodded. Then, the three of them flew out of Floating Sky Mountain and headed northwest. Cold Blood Hall was an overlord force in the north of Floating Sky Mountain. It was also a neighbor of the Eastern Wilderness. Sky Eagle Castle was west of Cold Blood Hall. Pillar of Heaven's Mountain was located between Cold Blood Hall and Sky Eagle Castle, northwest of Floating Sky Mountain. It was extremely far away. It was at least 50 large domains in the Eastern Wilderness. It was obviously impossible to travel such a distance by flying. First, they took the teleportation formation to the area near Pillar of Heaven's Mountain. Then they flew there. Pillar of Heaven's Mountain was a barren land surrounded by vast mountains. The three of them flew for several days and suddenly stopped in front of a forest. What a strong smell of blood! Zhang Wenjing's face changed slightly. Lu Ming's and Chu Kuang's faces sank. The two of them had also smelled the extremely strong smell of blood. The smell of blood came from the mountain on the right. Let's go and have a look. Chu Kuang took the lead and flew in that direction. Lu Ming and Zhang Wenjing followed. Soon, they found the source of the smell of blood. In the mountain, there was a castle made of stone. It was a small town where many people lived. But now they were all dead. The town was littered with corpses. The three of them scanned the air and estimated that at least 100,000 people were dead. They were all dead. The smell of blood filled the air. No wonder the three of them could smell the blood from so far away. Who is it? Who killed so many people? Most of them were just ordinary people. Zhang Wenjing's face was pale. The smell of blood here is all converging in one direction. Lu Ming said. He observed carefully and found that the smell of blood in the air was all converging in one direction. Could it be someone from Cold Blood Hall? Chu Kuang's eyes flickered. Cold Blood Hall's cultivation was mostly related to blood. But because Cold Blood Hall's cultivation was too overbearing and terrifying, other forces were dissatisfied and put pressure on Cold Blood Hall. Cold Blood Hall also promised that they would not attack ordinary people. But now, most of the people who died here were ordinary people. The three of them looked at each other and slowly walked in the direction where the smell of blood was converging. There's someone there. Zhang Wenjing transmitted her voice to the other two. In the center of the town, a middle-aged man in a blood-red robe was sitting cross-legged. The smell of blood filled the air. Endless smell of blood was converging toward him and entering his body. Bloodthirsty technique. It's an expert from Cold Blood Hall. Let's go. Chu Kuang whispered. His eyes showed a trace of seriousness and he wanted to retreat. Chapter 1017. Three geniuses with exuberant, vital blood have arrived. Haha, the heavens are really on my side. Die. The middle-aged man stretched out his palm and clenched it. In an instant, 5 blood-red ribbons effused out like 5 soft whips that swept towards the three of them. Bang! 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 The three of them erupted at the same time. Chu Kuang slashed out with two icy cold rays of light that slashed towards two of the blood-red ribbons. Lu Ming executed the hell suppression scripture and slapped his palms down successively towards the two blood-red ribbons. On the other hand, Zhang Wenjing slashed out with a sky-blue strand of sword chi that collided with one of the blood-red ribbons. 5 successive rumbles resounded. Lu Ming's figure moved over 10 steps back successively, and Chu Kuang was in a similar state as well. On the other hand, Zhang Wenjing was in a slightly better state and only moved a few steps back. After all, she was only dealing with a single ribbon, a domain enlightened spirit god. The three of them thought at the same time, and their expressions were extremely solemn. Since a casual attack was able to force the three of them back, it was absolutely a domain enlightened spirit god. The middle-aged man was slightly surprised when he saw that he hadn't killed Lu Ming's group of 3 with a single attack, but he was soon overjoyed. The 3 of you can be considered to be third-rate geniuses. Your vital blood is dense. Kill. The middle-aged man roared with laughter as he waved his 10 fingers successively, causing 10 blood-red ribbons to coil around Lu Ming's group of 3. The ribbons seemed to be light, but they were terrifyingly formidable, and they whistled through the air as they tore through the air. Let's charge out of here. Chu Kuang roared loudly as a 7th-grade god rank bloodline appeared above him, and he directly executed bloodline fusion. He didn't dare be careless in the slightest when facing a domain-enlightened spirit god, because carelessness would lead to death. Zhang Wenjing executed bloodline fusion as well. Lu Ming didn't execute bloodline fusion, but he erupted with 3 strands of dragon energy, and every single one of his attacks was extremely terrifying. Bang! Bang! The 3 of them joined forces and executed their strongest attacks. They instantly destroyed the 10 blood-red ribbons, and then they intended to fly towards the distance. Don't even think of leaving. Blood cage! The middle-aged man still didn't stand up, and he just sat there cross-legged while slapping his palms down. Suddenly, countless blood-red ribbons appeared in the sky, forming a cage made of blood-red ribbons, sealing the 3 of them inside. The 3 of them fought back, and the crimson cage kept shaking. However, they couldn't break it open for a while. Slash! The crimson-robed, middle-aged man shouted coldly. With a flick of his finger, 3 terrifying crimson-colored saber lights slashed towards the 3 of them. Bang! 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 The 3 of them tried their best to resist the blood-red saber light. However, in the end, Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing's bloodline trembled nonstop. They were almost blasted back into their human forms. Lu Ming also felt a burning pain all over his body. His blood and qi were in turmoil, and he almost vomited blood. Fortunately, Lu Ming's defense was terrifying, so he was able to successfully block it. Break! Lu Ming continued to increase the power of the suppressing heavenly art. After several punches, the blood cage finally collapsed. The 3 of them rushed out at top speed. You want to leave? No way. The crimson-robed, middle-aged man stood up abruptly. Blood energy surged from his body, and he slashed out 3 consecutive saber lights that crossed 10,000 meters in an instant, slashing towards the 3 of them. The 3 saber lights were incomparably terrifying, as if they could split the 3 of them in half. Not good. Chu Kuang was shocked. He had a feeling that he would die under this saber light. Crash! At this time, Lu Ming's forehead lit up, and the mountain river diagram flew out. It circled the 3 of them, and then flew forward rapidly. Bang! 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 The 3 saber lights slashed the mountain river diagram, but they didn't tear it apart. The mountain river diagram blocked a part of the force, but a part of the force still passed through the diagram and landed on Lu Ming, Chu Kuang, and Zhang Wenjing. Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing immediately reverted to their human forms and vomited blood. Lu Ming's body also shook violently. His skin was cut open, and blood flowed freely. Lu Ming endured the pain and flew forward with Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing. "Damn it!" The crimson-robed, middle-aged man roared, but he didn't pursue them. His expression changed, and he continued to sit down cross-legged and absorb the blood energy in the surroundings. Lu Ming's group of 3 flew for over 100 kilometers before they descended into a gorge. After they descended, they sat down cross-legged and healed their injuries. In comparison, Lu Ming's injuries were not serious. The dragon scales under his skin had blocked most of the force. After 2 hours, Lu Ming was fully recovered and the recuperation was completed. He glanced over and noticed that Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing were still healing. "There's still a huge gap between me and a domain enlightened spirit god." Lu Ming fell into deep thought. The gap between the spirit embryo realm and the domain enlightened spirit god realm was too huge. There was an enormous chasm between these two realms. Most importantly, the conditions to break through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm were too high. Ordinary cultivators or ordinary geniuses were utterly unable to break through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm. Those that were able to break through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm were geniuses amongst geniuses. This caused the gap between the two realms to be even greater. In fact, the further one cultivated, the greater the gap between the realms would be, and the more terrifying it would be. It would be difficult to surmount. Lu Ming was only at the peak of the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm now. It was too difficult and practically impossible for him to surmount such a huge gap and battle a domain enlightened spirit god realm expert. Perhaps it would be possible once he attained perfection in the spirit embryo realm. That crimson-robed middle-aged man is probably injured and is healing. Lu Ming thought to himself, if the crimson-robed middle-aged man wasn't injured, they might not have been able to charge out. After a few more hours, Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing finally opened their eyes, ending the healing process. "Thank you for your help this time, Brother Lu." Chu Kuang stood up and expressed his gratitude to Lu Ming. If it wasn't for Lu Ming, they probably wouldn't have been able to charge out. "You're welcome, Brother Chu." Lu Ming waved his hand. That expert from the Cold Blood Hall should be at the 1st level of the spirit god realm. I don't know why he was injured, so he massacred the entire town and used the blood of the entire town to heal himself. We just happened to encounter him. Chu Kuang analyzed. Lu Ming nodded. Chu Kuang's thoughts were similar to his. However, massacring an entire town of ordinary people to heal himself was too cruel. The 3 of them chatted for a while before they left and headed towards the Pillar of Heaven's Mountain. The matter of a domain enlightened spirit god realm expert wasn't something they could meddle in, nor did they have the ability to do so. After flying for another 2 days, a towering mountain appeared in front of them. The Pillar of Heaven's Mountain, as its name suggested, was like a pillar that was inserted into the ground and pierced through the clouds. It stood among the numerous peaks and could be seen at a glance. According to legend, the Pillar of Heaven's Mountain was transformed from the weapon of a supreme expert in ancient times. At this moment, there were still 2 days before the battle between Sanguinarum and Ian Bupo. The 3 of them settled down in a small town nearby. The small town was bustling with people coming and going. After the Battle of Providence, this is the first battle between the second-class Sky Prides. It has attracted a lot of people. Chu Kuang looked around and sighed. The people walking on the streets in the small town were all experts. Any one of them was at least at the spirit embryo realm. There were men and women of all ages. Chapter 1018. The 3 of them casually found an inn to stay in and waited for the arrival of the battle. Lu Ming made the best use of his time to comprehend the earth intent and temper his true origin energy and intent at the same time. 2 days passed in a flash. 2 days later, countless figures flew towards the Pillar of Heaven's Mountains. Lu Ming's group blended into the crowd and arrived near the Pillar of Heaven's Mountains. When they arrived, they noticed that the area was already surrounded by people. At a glance, there were no less than 10,000 people. This showed the influence of second-grade prodigies in the central continent. The central continent was boundless, and it was 7 or 8 times larger than the eastern wilderness. It was full of outstanding people, geniuses, and experts. However, how many second-grade prodigies were there in such a vast land? Below the 5 young giants were second-grade prodigies. There were only a total of 20 or so second-grade prodigies, and they were rarely seen. In the Battle of Karmic Luck, most people didn't have the qualifications to watch the battle. That was why so many people were attracted this time. They all wanted to see exactly what cultivation realm the second-grade prodigies had attained and how terrifying their combat strength was. In the crowd, there were old people and some young people in their teens. These young men were the most excited. They were the younger generation and had missed the Battle of Karmic Luck. They wanted to see how powerful the prodigies who were half a generation older than them were to motivate themselves. So many experts. Chu Kuang's gaze swept across the crowd. He discovered many geniuses who were on par with him. They were third-class geniuses. There were also some who were not third-class geniuses, but were not to be underestimated. For example, Hai Ziming, Wukong, and Ling Yunkong from the Floating Mountain were among the crowd. There were even a few old men who stood in the sky and emitted extremely shocking auras. They were clearly domain spirit gods. This battle had even drawn the attention of domain enlightened spirit gods. Suddenly, demonic chi surged into the sky as a black-robed young man walked through the air and attracted everyone's attention. Junyu! It's Junyu of the Devil Mountain! Someone exclaimed when they saw this young man. Junyu of the Devil Mountain is here too. Zhang Wenjing and Chu Kuang exclaimed as well. Lu Ming's heart jolted as well, and he couldn't help but size Junyu up carefully. During this period of time, Lu Ming had asked Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing about the central continent. Chu Kuang talked the most about the younger generation of prodigies. Lu Ming had some understanding of the prodigies of the central continent. Of course, it was mainly the 5 young giants and 20 second-grade prodigies, as well as the various overlord forces. The Demon Mountain was also one of the dominant forces in the central continent. Jun Yu was one of the more than 20 second-class prodigies. This person is indeed very strong. He gives off a very terrifying feeling. He's definitely a genius at the level of an emperor god. Jun Yu Yu of the heavens. Jun Yu's. Apparently, the battle between Yin Bupo and Xue Luozi had attracted the attention of other sky prides. Jun Yu stood silently in midair with his hands behind his back, and he looked straight ahead as if no one could draw his attention. He didn't even spare a glance at those domain enlightened spirit gods, and he seemed as if he didn't take them seriously at all. Indeed, with his natural talent, it was only a matter of time before he broke through to the spiritual god realm. In the future, he was almost certain to reach the exalted realm. His goal was to become an emperor. So how could he care about ordinary spiritual gods? The crowd continued to wait. Jing Kongling of the Floating Mountain. Suddenly, the crowd exclaimed again. Junior's sister Kongling is here. Chu Kuang's eyes lit up as he looked at the sky. A young lady in a water-colored long veil was walking through the air. Her body was filled with water vapor. She looked to be in her 20s. She was extremely beautiful, and her graceful figure was faintly discernible in the water vapor. Her bare feet were like the most beautiful art piece in the world. Every step she took would cause a cloud to appear in the sky. She was walking on the cloud, step by step. The scene was silent, as if everyone was attracted by the lady. So, she's Jing Kongling. She really is peerless. Lu Ming couldn't help but praise her in his heart. Chu Kuang was ranked second in the Floating Mountain, and the number 1 genius of the Floating Mountain was Jing Kongling. She was a lady with terrifying natural talent. At the same time, she was also a second-grade genius. She was equally famous as Junyu, Yin Bupo, and the others. Moreover, Jing Kongling was one of the 5 great peerless beauties of the central continent. Everyone in the central continent knew about her. In the past few days, Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing had mentioned her many times to Lu Ming. Lu Ming had been extremely curious about this peerless genius for a long time. Lu Ming couldn't help but compare all the women he met with Jing Kongling. He noticed that only Xian Yanqing could compare to Jing Kongling. The others, like Mulins and Autumn Moon, were slightly inferior. Jing Kongling, I never expected that this battle would draw you here as well. Jun Yu's gaze finally moved. He looked at Jing Kongling, and a trace of a burning light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Aren't you here as well? Jing Kongling said faintly. Her voice was tranquil, and when it entered one's ears, it gave a very comfortable feeling. It was as if it could calm one's restless heart. Just like her name, she was like an ethereal fairy, untainted by even a speck of dust. Brother Jun, Sister Kongling, you're early. A sweet and clear voice rang out. Not far away, another woman stepped through the air and arrived. This lady looked younger than Jing Kongling, but her appearance was not inferior to Jing Kongling's at all. Her small face was a little pale, but she had a sickly beauty that made people want to go up and protect her. Sandalwood, fairy from the Medicine King Valley. Many people widened their eyes. Another second-grade genius, and also one of the 5 great beauties of the Central Continent. Many people felt that they were going crazy. They felt that this trip was too worth it. This time, before the 2 main characters of the battle had arrived, there were already peerless geniuses coming one after another. Even 2 of the 5 great beauties of the Central Continent had come. It was worth it, too worth it. Many people had traveled hundreds of millions of miles just to see one of the 5 great beauties, but they could not. Today, they could see 2 of the 5 great beauties. What was not worth it? Sandalwood Fairy. Chu Kuang's eyes also lit up. He stared at Sandalwood Fairy with a lecherous look, which made Zhang Wenjing, who was beside him, unhappy. In fact, Zhang Wenjing was also a rare beauty, but compared to Jing Kongling and Sandalwood Fairy, she was far inferior. Sister Sandalwood, why are you here too? Jing Kongling stepped forward and came to Sandalwood Fairy's side. The 2 peerless beauties stood together. Almost everyone's eyes fell on the 2 women. Many people's eyes were burning with passion, but no one dared to flirt or even hit on them. Although the 2 women were peerless beauties, they were also famous geniuses. They were extremely terrifying. If anyone dared to flirt with them, it was guaranteed that they would die without knowing how. Ha ha ha! I didn't expect both of you to come. I'm so honored. There was a loud laugh, and a bolt of lightning flashed in the distance. In the next moment, a young man in a purple feather robe appeared at the top of Sky Pillar Mountain. The young man had a cold gaze and a hooked nose. His eyes were extremely sharp, and there were traces of lightning flashing in them. In Bupo! Someone spoke out that person's name.